Well, my top rated book on confidence is called The Super You. I'm sending it to you, physical book, free. Go to the link down there. You got it.
DreAllDay.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to occur. And on top of this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. This is the go-getter energy that moves you to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting this all together, you get the mindset and method podcast known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Welcome to the show. And if you're watching this on video, those of you who are, we've been putting these podcasts on video now ever since the late 800 episodes. If you're watching this on video, you see we have a guest. You didn't see his face the first time that we did this. It was back in episode number 714, back in March of 2018. But that is Mr. Wes Pifer, my college teammate, my brother, Division I college basketball coach. We're going to get into all of that right now. Wes, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great. I'm great. All of y'all listening audio, y'all have heard Wes again, episode number 714. And I've only had 3 guests ever in the history of the Work on Your Game podcast. I did hot seats with a few people, but I mean guests where I did actual interviews. I did Donna St. Louis, who's one of my business mentors. My sister was Toya Baldwin Clark. And Wes was the only other person who's been a guest on here. And we got so much positive feedback the first time that Wes was on this podcast, because I know we have so many athletes who listen to this podcast. There's a lot of coaches who listen to this podcast. I hear from these coaches, many of them basketball coaches, but I mean football coaches, baseball coaches, women's coaches. A lot of coaches listen to this podcast. So when they heard you, Wes, the first time on this podcast, there was a lot of great feedback that I got. And those of y'all know, like Wes and I are friends, obviously. Wes has shared some feedback that you received yourself from the first time you were on the show, right, Wes?
Right. There was a lot of great feedback.
Well, who were some of the people that you heard from? You don't have to say their names, but I mean, what did they do? What did they hear? And what did they say about what they heard?
I heard from a couple of student athletes, varying ages, from middle school up to high school. Some college people reached out and said they had listened to it. And they just wanted to pick my brain on some things. I got a couple of emails, probably I'd say between 7 to 10 emails about it. A couple of people that I competed against in college, some of our college teammates who listened to it, got great feedback off of it. And then even some people that I competed against, since we talked about a little bit about our playing careers, reached out and said a couple of good things. And I was really surprised the amount of people that listened to it in its entirety. And that's something that I'm going to encourage people today to do, because me and Dre, we blocked out unlimited time to really talk about it. But I would link in this to something like a book that was like 600 or 700 pages long, that the average person might see how long it is and not read it just because.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I encourage you, even if you don't do it in one sitting, that you really, really lock in. Because I think that you can get at least probably like 40, 50 things from what we're going to talk about. Because we talked last week about some of the stuff. And I think if you lock in, you can really get something out of this.
Well, she said you heard from a couple of our college teammates. I didn't hear from none of our college teammates. He reached out to you, and then he reached out to me. who are these people?
I thought TP listened to it.
TP ain't hit me. Damn, TP, you ain't hit me up, man. You got my number.
And then Ethan listened to it, and then and TP's brother Mike, he listened to it as well. And then obviously we got a group chat with 2 of our teammates, and they both listened to it too. And they immediately came back with great feedback too. So I'm excited to be here. Excited to share. Like I said, I'm willing to do anything I can to help people.
All right, that's what's up. Yeah, TP, holler at me, man. Ethan, one of our teammates, Ethan, he's a college coach as well, right? What school is Ethan at?
Ethan's at Washington Jefferson. It's a Division III school, and I think it is in Washington, Pennsylvania. It's like 30 miles outside of Pittsburgh. But Ethan is in his, I want to say he's in his 3rd or 4th year as the head coach there, one of our college teammates. But once again, another guy that can be a resource and everything else like that.
Yeah, I gotta holler at Ethan. We might want to have you on the podcast. Since I know you listening, mofo, why don't you hit me up? I mean, you know what how you gonna hit up Wes and not hit up me? But anyway, last episode, the time that you were on episode 714, I just looked it up, it was 1 hour and 34 minutes long. So being that a lot of people don't have long attention spans these days, so people, they just can't pay attention for a long enough period of time to really get the value that they need. It's interesting. Just the other day, I was on Instagram, not today that y'all are watching and listening to this, but the other day a guy hit me up and he asked me to be on his show. He said, you know, it's only going to be about 20 minutes for me to be a guest on his show. And I was thinking to myself, and I said this to him, I said, I mean, I can't really give an audience any value in 20 minutes.
Right.
I mean, I could drop a few little, you know, hacks and tips, but I can't get them anything real in 20 minutes, at least not one time. Like, I give y'all these podcasts and they could be 20 minutes, but it's every day. Like, you got 900 of them. But 20 minutes alone is not enough. And I told him that, and he said, well, look, you want to go longer, we can go longer. But I like to do, if I get into an interview with somebody, whether I'm interviewing them or they're interviewing me, I want it to be like the first time I had Wes on the show, where it's an hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't care. We talk for 4 hours. Like, I really want to get deep. Like, I want to get into the deep water with people so we can really, really get what's real about it, number one. And number two, it's for the people who are serious. Like,
no doubt.
Somebody who ain't serious to listen to a 20-minute, anybody who listen to 15 minutes of talk, because it's only 15 minutes. You know, we condition ourselves with 10-second snaps and 15-second Instagram stories. But if you're serious, then you'll read the 700-page book. If I told you, listen, it's $1 million worth of value, you read this book, you're going to make $1 million in the next year. I don't care if the book's 1,000 pages, you're reading that book.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So somebody who's serious is going to read it. And if you ain't serious, listen, this ain't the show for you. And I say that damn near every other episode.
Right.
This show ain't for everybody. And I want to make sure I'm being so clear with that. And the people who are listening, you're one of those people who've decided you really want to do something to invest in yourself. So getting into today's topic, as Wes and I get into this conversation, I want y'all to listen to what we talk about here today, because there's a specific conversation Wes and I had that led to this episode that we're going to get into in a moment. And there are going to be some stories told here today. We're going to tell some anecdotes from our own personal experience and our shared experiences. I want you to listen to this not just as entertainment, because there's going to be some entertaining points from stories that we talk about, but also the principles. And this is something I say often. When I share principles here that either I got somewhere else, like I talked about, there's an episode when we talking about some principles I learned from Amazon, something from Warren Buffett, something from Napoleon Hill. Check yourself for the principles that we're talking about here today, especially you athletes, because we have a college coach on here today, and obviously y'all know that I'm an athlete. Check yourself against these principles and see where do you stand when it comes to this stuff. Right. So now that we got that out of the way, first of all, Wes, since the last time we talked, I mean, it's been about 6 months since we talked. You've been promoted. You have moved up. You're not in the same position you were in the last time that we talked. So could you tell everyone what you moved up to and what exactly it means?
I got promoted to associate head coach. Very, very thankful for my head coach out here, Jack Murphy, and his faith and belief in me. And it's just the next step in my career. I'm an aspiring guy that wants to be a head coach, and for me, this is a really, really good move. I'm not sure how many there are in the country. I'm not sure how many there are at my age, but it's a huge move. And I'm really, really thankful of it. You know, I'm kind of doing some of the same thing, but I got expanded the responsibilities within our program that geared me to more being towards the head coach. So I'm thankful for that.
Man, congratulations. So could you tell the people, because there are people here who don't know what an associate head coach even means. I mean, people know that there are coaches and they know assistant coach, but what does it mean to be an associate head coach?
It's really, the simplest way I can, I guess, describe it is, it's basically putting the tag on you like you're somebody that's ready to be a head coach. So like it's outside of our program, people know and understand that like I'm a person that's ready to be a head coach in my coaches and my administration's eyes. So for when it looks a little bit better on your resume. And the second thing it does, in coach's absence, I'm acting as the head coach. So if coach is out on a recruiting trip and I'm the only person here, what I say basically goes. So I am the guy that's sitting in that seat. And when coach is absent, I'm acting as like the de facto head coach, or if coach is unable to attend something, I usually go in his place and handle his responsibilities in his absence. Okay, so it's kind of like Urban Meyer at Ohio State. He got suspended for 3 games, and then you would be the guy who steps up. Absolutely. All right, so we're not hoping your coach gets. No, not at all. I get mine to do time. Yeah, but like when Steve Kerr was injured and Luke Walton was coaching the Warriors that year, similar to that, right? Same situation. Yep.
Okay. All right. So this episode is gonna come out. We're recording this over Labor Day weekend. This is gonna come out on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day weekend ends. So around this time of year, school just started, right?
Yep.
So what do you do as a basketball coach, and what do the players do as a team at this point in the season? Because I'm not sure even what the schedule is for you all.
Yeah, so we just started out. This was week 1 for us. It's a little bit unique because we just got back from a trip to the Bahamas, 6 days and 3 games over there. Played well. So we're actually giving our guys off. We'll have our first official team workout September 11th. But usually what happens is you kind of start to get in your groove. For us as coaches, it's more about individual skill work. So like we're getting in the gym with our guys and working on their individual skill sets between guards and bigs. And then for players, it's the time for them where, number one, they need to be showing up in shape and they need to be getting better. And now they're starting to have to handle their academics. So everybody's really starting to get on like a little bit of a regimented schedule at this point in time. And, the guys, their days start early. They're lifting at 6 o'clock in the morning. And from there, you're talking about study hard. You're talking about individual workouts. You're talking about pickup. You're talking about a lot of different obligations they got to have. So basically, everybody's getting adjusted to a schedule right now.
There's one thing you said in there, Wes. You said you expect the players to be in shape. What exactly does that mean?
Game shape. I mean,
what does that look like? If I'm a player and you tell me to get in game shape, and I'm like, all right, well, how do I know?
You got to be able to pass a conditioning test. A really, really simple one for me would be 22-22. And a 22 is a down, back in 22 seconds. So you need to be able to make 22 of those all in the time. What I would say probably like a 30-second rest. That's being in game shape to me. As a coach, like you can always tell when a player is serious by how they show up on the first day. Like if somebody shows up out of shape, I mean, they're not ready to play basketball. Like I linking it to a story with like Kobe Bryant, when him and Shaq always had their riffs about training camp. Kobe was obsessive, and Kobe would always show up ready to go, game shape. If the ball got tipped up that day, he's ready to go. And Shaq kind of used that time to like ease his way in to getting into shape. So like when these guys show up, like you know who's serious. You know who's serious about how they took care of their body in the summer. And if you show up and you ain't in shape, I'm going to whip you into shape, but I'd rather have that time to work on you with your skill set.
So when you say 22 is down, back twice, right?
Yep.
So that's like 5.5 seconds. You got to get 94 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yep.
So what does it mean to do 22 of them? Means you got to do it 22 times?
Yes.
Wait a minute. So down, back is 1, and you got to do it 22 times?
Yes.
In one day?
In one season, yeah.
With 30 seconds rest in between each one. And you got to make it. And what happens if you don't make it? Let's say I get to I did 9 of them, but then on the 10th one, I get 25 seconds. What happens?
We stuck on 10 until you get there.
And then you just got to keep doing it till you do all 22.
Got to keep doing it until you get 22 of them.
Wow. So what happens if a player just can't do it? They just fail the test.
We probably run them pretty hard that day, and then after that, they just got to come back the next day and do it again.
Wow. And you just keep doing it till they pass.
Yeah, we got a couple of them. We got, as we progress, like before the year starts, like we call it 30 and 30. So we would call around what we call a transition. So like from baseline, free throw line back, half court back, 3/4 back, full court back. You got to do it in 30 seconds. You got to do 30 of them with 30 seconds rest. So like that's a 30-minute conditioning test right there.
30. Well, so that's like a suicide. That's what we used to call a suicide, right?
Yeah, transition.
Yeah. So you got to do 30 of the 30 suicides.
Yep. So essentially, you got 30 seconds running, 30 seconds rest, 30 seconds running, 30 of them.
Wow. So athletes out there, I've said before, basketball is not a game of dribbling, shooting, passing. It's a game of running. I mean, do you agree? I mean, you're putting these guys through this test.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything at your highest level if you're not in game shape. Like, you're not going to be able to get your shot off. Your legs are going to be drained and tired and everything else like that. The best players are always in the best shape. I mean, that's just simple and plain.
So do your players know that this is going to be expected of them before they get to the day that you do the test? Do they know they're going to have to do that so they can practice on their own?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so all you athletes out there talking about you want to play college ball, you want to play overseas, look, go to your local park. I know it's not 94 feet. Go to your LA Fitness. It's probably like 60 feet. See if you can do it in the LA Fitness or at your park. And if you can't, then look. I mean, you're hearing it right now from the coach right there in front of you. And Wes, how's your team looking for this upcoming season? This is Northern Arizona University. I don't think I spelled that out. But how's your team looking for the upcoming season from what you can see so far?
They look good. I think we got a cohesive group. It was big for us to be able to go to the Bahamas because we got 6 new guys that were getting into the fold. So it was good to get them here with us and talking like we talk, in our love language. We want everybody talking in the same manner. And then for us to kind of get the expectation out there right away. So those 10 practices did that. We went over to Bahamas, won 3 games. And winning is hard. So anytime you have a chance to come out on top is big. So it was great. And I think the team is looking really good. We're coming off a tough year, but I think we have the pieces and I think we have the mentality that I think that we can turn it around. And I think this team is going to be really good. They really like each other. I really like coaching these guys.
So Wes, the reason that we are having this episode right now, the reason I told you that we were going to come back on is that a couple weeks ago, you had texted me because we had our group text that we do with a couple of our college teammates. And Wes sent a text and said, yo, I listened to episode 853 and you were saying it was fire. You had the fire emoji, right?
Right.
And episode number 853, for those who don't remember, is in competition, you got to be a dog. Mm-hmm. And Wes told me he wanted to have a conversation with me about that episode. We had a conversation about 4 or 5 days ago when we're having this conversation now. And we ended up talking on the phone. We was on the phone for almost 3 hours.
Right.
Talking about several things. So first, let me ask you, what was it that you heard in that episode or got from that episode that really talked to you?
I mean, a lot of things. I've probably listened to it probably like 20, 25 times since it came out. And I think every single time I get something new out of it. I probably took like 4 or 5 pages of notes on it. And it's somebody like, I think later in the episode, you spoke on like, if I'm thinking about somebody right now, it might be you. And I was like, yeah, that's right. That's me. Because and I think it was something, and I think the thing that me and Drake talked about it was, I was somebody who thought of myself like that. And as I listened to the episode, it was one of those things where I felt like if I heard that in college, I would have been even more of a dog. I would have made it even tougher on people that were with me, even tougher on people that were with me on the team and stuff like that had I heard it. So it was one, and I think I'm gonna meet with our guys next week. And I'm gonna let them hear it, and I want them to take notes on it too, because I want our team to have a tough, kind of like gritty mentality. And I think that episode really entails really everything that you really need when you're talking about being a dog. And it was something coming up that people used to always say, but I think the manner that you explained it with gave me even a better thing. And that's why I want our guys to listen to it, because I think it can really help them.
Excellent. Well, Wes, I mean, we met at Penn State Altoona, which is a Division III college. And one of the things about playing at a D3, and this is something that I've said many times on this show, is that most Division III athletes don't have ambitions of playing a sport after college. I mean, for the most part, they play the sport to play the sport. It's fun. I mean, it's not that people don't compete. It's not that you don't try. It's not that you're not dedicated, but athletes not trying to go play in the NBA if you're playing at a D3 school, or the NFL if you're playing D3 football. So when you and I met, I had that ambition in my mind, but I didn't have anyone who shared that view, who was looking at it like, I'm going to do something else even after this. So when it came to your time at Penn State Altoona, from the time that we met and just looking to where your future was headed, what was your mind at while you were at school playing? Were you thinking about how am I going to get ready for the future? What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? What do I need to do to get myself ready? Because I didn't know anything. I said this in episode 714.
Right.
I didn't know anything about professional basketball. I knew I wanted to play, but I had no idea how. And this is kind of where I say the power of the mind comes in, because then somebody like yourself came into my life out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. The day that I get kicked out of the gym, you're in the gym, and you knew something, So what was your mindset in college thinking about where you want to go next?
You know, I had tunnel vision. You know, coming from me to Altoona was like a business decision. Going to play for Coach Gilliam, who had those NBA connections and overseas connections, was one of the biggest deciding factors in why I decided to come to school there. And when I got there, you know, I had 1 year left, so I just had tunnel vision. I was going to work as hard as I possibly can in the gym every single day. I was going to listen to coach. I was going to watch film. I was going to essentially treat myself like a pro that entire year. That means limiting distractions. That means, like, I heard a great one from Kobe Bryant when he was talking about Alabama football was like editing your life. And I did that without even knowing that I was doing that. Like, anything that did not align with me getting in the gym, working out, and going to play professionally the year after that, like, had to go. Whether that be girls, whether that be parties, whether it be time spent with friends, I wasn't willing to sacrifice that time away from the gym, away from the weight room, and away from the track.
Mm. Well, at our college, Penn State Altoona, and as you said, a couple of our college teammates are probably going to hear this and they're listening to this. What was the atmosphere like? I mean, I know what it was like. I'll tell you what I thought, but I want to hear what you say. What was the atmosphere like on campus when it came to playing at this time of year, beginning of the school year, between now and, because back then for us, it was like October. You couldn't start practicing until October or something. So what was it like on campus? We only had one gym, so everybody who wanted to play ball came to the one gym, basketball team or not. How would you describe that atmosphere that we created there in that gym at that time?
You know, I'll reference, like, people that play with us, I don't think they had that kind of, like, same mentality, that same seriousness. So they came in the gym and it was more so like lackadaisical. Like, if we're going to play pickup, like, oh, we're going to hoop. And if, you know, it goes well, it goes well. If we win, we win. And we was coming in that joint like, we're going to win. We're going to play hard. Everything's going to be the right way. And yeah, everybody didn't really get like that. You know, to paint a picture, like when you would come in our gym, there was one side of the court, and that's where we played at. And then there was another side of the court, we called that the D-League. And that was for people that was like not as serious or just coming in and everything else like that. And what happened was a lot of the guys wanted to come play against us because they knew we was on the team. And then eventually, number one, they either stopped showing up, or number two, they just went and played in the D-League because it was tough. It was physical out there. It was a lot of shit talk. It was a lot of good players. And a lot of people asked out of that fight, to be honest. A lot of people didn't make it through those pickup sessions. It was, I think you would agree, sometimes we made it a little bit gritty on that court.
Yeah, absolutely. So this gym was Adler Gymnasium at Penn State Altoona. I've heard did they build a new gym or did they just update the first gym? I know they made some changes.
I'm not 100% sure. Either way, they should have had it when we were there, but it looked really, really good. But
yeah, it does look good, what I've seen. But the way that our gym, like Wes said, the near court, when you walked in, that was where the serious games were. And then the far court was like people playing for fun. They didn't want to get too serious. And that was the place to be, basically. I mean, on campus during the week, on the weekends, of course, like any college campus, you had the parties. But the party Monday through Thursday was the basketball court. And girls would be there, regular guys would be there, and people would show up to play pickup. And yeah, we made it a type of atmosphere that, and this is all referring to that episode 853 about being a dog, that not everybody wanted to be a part of that atmosphere because it was I think, and there's a reason why I said, you know, Division III players, even at a Division III school, people are not that serious about basketball. So people were coming in, I think they were expecting one thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. They got something different than what they were expecting. It was a whole lot of shit talking going on. It would get personal sometimes. And it wasn't good natured. It wasn't for fun. It wasn't, we gonna talk trash during the game, then laugh and hug after the game. No, it was, we gonna talk trash now. We gonna talk trash after the game. If I see you on campus, I'm gonna tell you about it again. Right. It was a really serious atmosphere. Not everybody was ready for that. And for me, one of my biggest frustrations being at a school, like at a Division III school, like we were, was that there weren't enough players who had that kind of competitive fire. You know, not everybody really had it where if you took it up in intensity, that they were going to match your intensity at all times. Not everybody. And when things kind of got warm in there, when that temperature went up, a lot of people just fell back. A lot of people fell back. They got quiet. And I'm looking for the player who, I was always looking for the player who, when the shit talk went up, they started playing harder. And they would go at you even harder. And when it came to you, like, what was your mentality around that? And as a coach these days, how is it looking at players that you see in this era coming up?
I mean, for me as a player, it was really simple. Coming up early in my career, like I figured out quickly against my peers, I wasn't the biggest, I wasn't the strongest, I wasn't the fastest, and I'm most athletic. And I think anybody that just competed against me would probably tell you the same thing. So I had to figure out what could separate me. That was work ethic. And then number two is being a dog, like just being tough, being that person that nobody wanted to compete against. And my idol coming up was Michael Jordan. So any kind of content that Mike put out, I was reading about his mentality, his mindset, how he treated his teammates and stuff like that. That was my mentality. And like and Jay, I think you would agree, those pickup games, like a lot of the times, like I wasn't doing it just to beat you. Like I was trying to destroy you. I was trying to make it so like the next time if you even walk back in the gym, then you was already beat mentally from what I did to you the last time. And like that was kind of just like my mentality. Like, and if you think about it, just think of all the guys that coach brought in that, number one, they didn't even make it to the team because of the pickup. You could talk about Nick, you could talk about Jim, you could talk about a bunch of dudes. Because it was once again, because I think they showed up expecting one thing and it was completely different. And I like to give some backdrop to it because when we started playing pickup, there were a lot of factors into it, why it was so gritty and why it was so tough. Number one, you had about 3 or 4 guys that I thought were really good, and everybody wanted to be the alpha dog. Everybody wanted to make sure that everybody knew that they were the best player in the gym. And they were set out on that. I think it was me, I think Jay, I thought B, I thought Sheed were probably the guys, Jay, that wanted to be that guy. So everybody knew that all summer, everybody was working their ass off. Like, I know Jay was working on his jump shot. I was working on my athleticism and getting my quickness even more. Jay was working out. She was working out. So, once you got back, like, shit, it was go time. Like, I was chomping at the bit to get after all of y'all. Like, to let y'all know that you hadn't been working and hadn't been doing what I've been doing this summer. And then you factor in the team that we were talking about was 2-25 the year before that. So all the new dudes, once again, they showed up thinking, shit, these dudes are going to be some scrubs, but they didn't know about the dudes that were sitting down and everybody. So they came in thinking like, okay, this is probably going to be easy. And they quickly found out that it wasn't going to be like that. And then from my thing as a coach, because these generations are just a little bit different, when I see somebody that's got that kind of toughness and that edge, at this stage, like when we came, it was a given, but now that's like a skill. Like if a guy plays hard and he's tough, like that's a skill because some guys don't have it at just this generation. They were raised a little bit different. So when I see a guy that has that kind of toughness and that edge, he's one of those guys that I start off them immediately. So.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, the girls was watching. We got to factor.
Oh, what?
The girls are watching. Yeah, that matters. Now, also, there was a guy, and I mean, you mentioned his name. He probably doesn't listen to the podcast, but I heard this story. My roommate B was one of the players you mentioned. He was my roommate. He was our best player 2 years in a row, and he told me this story that the coach had recruited a certain player to come play for our school. And like you said, the team hadn't been good the previous year. And if I had been looking at that team, I would say, okay, then I don't care what these guys' names are. They probably all garbage, right? I'm going to come in there. This is going to be easy. I'm going to just take it. I'm going to have to try. And he came on campus. He came in the gym, started to play pickup. And apparently too much trash had gotten talked to him that people weren't as welcoming to him as I thought they would be. Right. And he decided he didn't want to play on the basketball team anymore, but he had been recruited to come play basketball. He decided not to play at all. To me, that's like a foreign language to me. To me, that's like what would make me want to come more. Like, okay, I'm coming to the gym extra early tomorrow if this is what it is, because that's, again, is the dog mentality. If you notice that through this conversation so far, we haven't said anything about dribbling drills, how many shots you were getting up, how high is your vertical, none of those things. It was a mentality that when we see that the competition is there, when the competitive fire is there, we ready to get into this. This is what we're looking for. This is what we want. and this guy decided that he wasn't going to show up anymore. So when you are, as a coach nowadays, I mean, you've been in the coaching game for, you know what I'm talking about. Now, you've been in the coaching game for many years now. What do you see in players when something like that happens? Let's say they get stuff, they get dunked on, and then they don't want to play hard anymore, or they turn the ball over a couple times in a row, they get pulled out of the game, and then you know mentally they're just out of it, or they're getting their ass kicked in practice by an upperclassman or a player that's just more talented than them, and you could tell that it's getting to them. Now, how do you deal with that? Do you try to talk to them? Do you just say, look, this guy can't cut it? What happens?
I mean, I think it's just a mentality. Like either you can cut it or you can't. Like when you get in those adverse situations, and like that's our job to put you in adverse situations as coaches. I want to see how you're gonna respond. Like sometimes, like if this makes sense, like I want to see how somebody's gonna react to adversity before we go play in front of 5,000 people. I want to know if you're gonna break. I want to know if you're gonna fold right here, right now. I want to know what I got on my hands. So like, we got a couple of drills that we do. Like I coach our defense out here. Like we got a couple of drills that we do that are almost, it's basically set up for you to fail. They're really, really tough and they're set up for you to fail because I want to see how you're going to act. I want to see your body language. I want to see if somebody can pick you up with their words. I want to see if you can pick your own self up off the mat sometimes. And right then and there, I want to know what I got. Before, like Montana is a big rival for us. Like I want to see what we got right now before we go play at Montana. If you're going to break right now, you're going to certainly break in front of 5,000 people. So for me, as a coach, I want to put them in adverse situations just to kind of see how they were going to react.
Well, this is something that I've talked about in my personal experience as a player. I didn't really get this whole thing about being a dog. I didn't really all the way get it until after college, until I was into playing the pros. Like I had it when it came to the pickup and we were playing these unorganized games. I had it in there, but when it came to with the team and trying to fit it into a structure and a coach telling me what to do, I couldn't really put two and two together. So if you're coaching a player like that, when you know that they have it's in them somewhere, and you know they have the ability, but they're not really doing it the way that it needs to be done within a team structure, how do you deal with that player specifically? Do you deal with them? Do you even have the time and resources to deal with one person? Or do you just say, look, all right, you ain't going to sit on the bench? Like, what do you do with that player?
No, I would bring him in and talk to him one-on-one because I think it's a special capability, like if somebody can have it. Because to be honest, like when you're talking about leadership, like leadership is lonely. And like if I see somebody as a student athlete that has that kind of capability that can be like, can hold somebody accountable and say it's okay not to be liked by this person on that day, like I'm going to bring that person in and foster them. I'm going to let them listen to that episode. And I have this thing right here on my office desk right here. It's called the levels of leadership. And the levels of leadership, number one, take care of your own business. You can't tell anybody else anything until you take care of your own business. Number two is to be vocal. Number three is to be the hardest worker. So if you're doing all three of those things, then you can do number four, which is call out teammates. Are you willing to be unpopular? And those are my levels of leadership. So if a guy has those kind of capabilities, I'll bring him in. I'll let him listen to your episode. And I could probably reference something that's happening in practice through practice film. Like, listen, you should have got on his ass right there. He just missed that line. He just missed that box out. And everybody else is boxing out. You should have got on his ass right then and there. And then, you know, when you have those kind of moments, and then when you actually get into practice, and I can make eye contact with him and kind of be like, this is one of those moments you need to step up. Like, guys ain't touching lines. Guys ain't making times when doing conditioning. Like, now's the time when you step up. But I think if somebody has that kind of capabilities in them, it's definitely my job to kind of foster that and bring it out of them.
Where'd you get that levels of leadership from? Is it something you made up? How'd you find that? Or
I got that from Lavelle. I got it from Lavelle Moulton, my head coach at North Carolina Central. I keep it on my desk because at this day and age, like sometimes like that fourth one is a bitch for guys. Like, are you willing to be unpopular? Because, you know, they don't want to call their teammate out because that could be a boy. And now they got to sit by themselves in the cafeteria and Subway. And that's hard. That's hard for that generation. It wasn't hard for me, but it's hard for this generation. But right. I keep it handy though.
All right, so let's talk about that right there, what you just said. I mean, again, like you said, there's a couple of our college teammates listening to this, and you and I, we talked about this a lot when we had our own phone conversation a couple days ago, me and you had our times going at it on the court. Like,
right.
When we really got into it, where there was times when, you know, West was my ride to the gym from our off-campus apartment. I had to ride with somebody else back home because because that's how we competed, and that's what it was. And there were times when there was one time when B was going to try to choke me because we was arguing about a game of one-on-one. There was times when right. These are true stories. So all of this stuff, because we were competing with each other. We competed against each other so hard when it was time for us to go play against somebody else, somebody from the outside, whether it was some regular dude on campus who came with 6 of his friends to come play us in a 3-on-3 or in pickup, or we was playing at other gyms. We're gonna talk about that in a moment. Mm-hmm. I knew what I could count on from West. I knew when it was another guard who was supposed to have handle and be nice, I knew West was going to eat him up. There was a big dude who was supposed to be the man in the paint. I knew B was going to take care of that. And if there was an athletic, quote unquote athletic guy, right, West and B knew that I was going to take care of that. So we all knew what to expect from each other because of the fact that we went at each other so much in those pickup games. And when we start going at each other, everybody else in the gym was like, whoa, wait a minute, ain't these guys
right.
Ain't these guys roommates? Like, don't these guys be hanging out together? But now they talking to each other like they about to fight, and people didn't know what was happening. So when it came to, there's one thing that I saw actually I want to let you address that first before I get to the rest of it. When it comes to players who are cool with each other off the court, and these days, you know, we got social media, and I mean, it's all about being social. It's all about being liked and having friends and being followed, and everybody feeling positive about each other. It's not as much confrontation is frowned upon these days, right? Confrontation is not supposed to be happening, but back in our time, confrontation was a normal thing. Like, this is a time when 50 Cent came out, and 50 Cent was confronting everybody. He was the most popular guy. Now the most popular guy is like, he's friendly with everybody. So how did you see that when it came to us going at each other, even though we were friends, and how it translated to how we competed against other people?
I mean, I just think it has to happen. When people are competing at the highest level, there's going to be conflict because people are going to be thinking one way or thinking another way. And I think the tougher conversations you can have with people that are close to you, it'll make it easy when you got to do it with other people. So, I mean, we went at each other, and I think it's just that mentality because we wanted to win. And if you weren't doing what you're supposed to do, you're in the way of me winning. And there's nothing that's going to get in the way of me winning. Like, that's how I thought about it. And we had a lot of it. I mean, there was at least every week there was something that was going on because that's how we was competing. I mean, when I played, you know, Sellis, like y'all know, you know Sellis. Marcellus Morgan, one of my best friends. He was a D3 All-American, Conference Player of the Year. He was my workout partner in Carolina. Like, we had to stop playing one-on-one by ourselves because every one-on-one would end in a fight. Like, this is my best friend. Like, we would get to the point where, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're in a fist fight with my best friend now. We hug it out. But after that, So when you talk about you competing against the people that you're close with like that, when you see somebody else, I mean, it's like, it's kill or be killed. And like, the thing that I always use with our guys when I talk about it, I say brothers fight in the house to go out and run the neighborhood together. Meaning that me and Dre compete in hell against each other. So like, by the time we go off to these other gyms, this is going to be easy. But you got to be willing to have conversation, especially with people that you cool with. Like, Dre would get on me if I wasn't doing anything. I can remember, like, we were playing on Sunday in Tyrone. That's like a city like 15 minutes past Altoona. And, like, we were the best players in the league. And, like, people would come watch those games. So, like, the people that played before us would stay, and the people that was playing after us would get there early because they wanted to see a show. We were going to put on a show. And this one particular day, I brought a girl with me. She rode with us. And I was kind of out there playing cool, taking a lot of jump shots, a lot of step backs. And I was being really, really cool. And dude that was guard was kind of busting me down a little bit. And we got to the half, and, you know, Dre was looking at me. I didn't really say nothing and anything else like that. And then, like, we had a coach, but, like, you know, in those leagues, you don't really have no coach. So Dre, the first thing he said once I sat down was like, yo, like, what the F is you doing, yo? Like, you done shot 20 times. Your man got 20 points. Like, what the F is going on with you? And I'm like looking at him crazy, like, yo, like, but it was like one of those moments like he didn't care if we was boys. He didn't care. I mean, obviously we rode together. He didn't care if we rode together. But it was like one of those things like get on your shit. Like, you bullshitting right now. Like, get on it. And I think when you do like that, your pride's on the line. Anybody that's got pride, I think we took care of our business in the second half. But like, I mean, you just got to be willing to call people out, especially if you're going to compete at your highest level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many times and so many battles that we went into. I remember we played in the BK. There was Burger King used to do this 3-on-3 tournament every summer. Mm-hmm. Actually, they only did it for maybe a summer or two. They did it. I guess they stopped having it because I think it was getting too wild. And fights happening in the game.
Gritty. That was gritty.
Yeah, they had these local guys as referees, quote unquote referees. I'm using air quotes. They weren't really referees. They were just random dudes from the neighborhood. They give them $10 to ref the game. They letting everything go. The games are super physical. It's basically football, but with a basketball. And we went and played we played that BK 3-on-3 in Baltimore, and it's double elimination. It means you lose 2 games, you're out. We lost our first game because I don't think we were ready for the intensity. And this is three people, me, Wes, and our teammate Brandon Battle. We lost the first game, and we're sitting there like, whoa. After we lost the first game, we were sitting off to the side, and I'm like, wait a minute. We drove to damn Baltimore. None of us is from Baltimore. So we drove to Baltimore. We lose this game. Wes drove like 5 hours. B drove from Pittsburgh. He did like 5. I drove from Philly. That was like 2. So we lose this game. He just drove down here for absolutely nothing. And we ended up going to what? I think we ended up in the finals or the semifinals of that tournament.
Losing the finals.
After that first game, we didn't even say anything. We didn't have a conversation after that first game. But then the very next game, we almost lost that one. We almost lost the second game. And I remember, I think I hit a shot at the end of that one, but the whole crowd was surrounding watching us and they looking at us. We had our Penn State Altoona jerseys on, and they're like, oh, these college boys, we gonna beat them. They think they street guys, they think they tough. But we had to start kicking their ass. But I knew what Wes was gonna do. I knew what B was gonna do, and they knew what I was gonna do. We didn't have any conversation after that first game, even though we was one loss away from losing. And we almost lost the second game. It was an unspoken language. Like, it was an unspoken conversation that we didn't have to have there. And many times when we would play, if we did start going at each other during the game, the other guys on the other team would look at us like, oh, look, they're starting to splinter, right? They're starting to argue with each other, divide and conquer. So that means we got them. We about to beat them. They're getting mad at each other. We're going to win, but they actually had it wrong. It was actually the opposite, because as soon as we start going at each other, right? Because as soon as we start going at each other, now your pride is on the line, because I just called you out, and you know people in the crowd heard it. And then if you call me out, then I know people in the crowd heard it. Like, I'm not going to sit there and not play after I got called out, and you're not going to not play, or B or whoever's not going to just not play. We would all start playing even better. And then we would go out there and we kick their ass. Like, that very game, we ended up kicking those guys' asses, even though they were beating us in the first half, because our pride got on the line. Now, it wasn't about winning and losing the game. It was about, yo, your man just said something to you, and you know you're better than this. You know, so for you, I mean, you pretty much answered it already, but with us, when we would go at each other and stuff like that in the game, because of course, during the games, we weren't thinking rationally like we are right now. You know, what would go through your mind when I would say something like that to you, or you would say something like that to me?
I mean, to me, like, if somebody's calling me out, first and foremost, I'm thinking like, why are they calling me out? But then after that, the first thing you do is you evaluate your performance. That's the first thing that goes through my mind. Like, we just talked about, use that Tyrone thing. Like, I knew I was full of shit. When you said it, after I think about how my first half was, it was 100% right. So you got to do an honest evaluation. And then after that, I mean, there's nothing really else to be said. Like, I think there's a certain unspoken language that you have to have amongst like your people that you're around. Like, sometimes stuff ain't got to be said, but then when it's said, like, okay, it's time to go. Like, I understand what I got to do now. So it's no more talk. There's a time where you can't talk about anything else no more after it gets said. Like, you just got to do it.
Absolutely. And there were times where there were many games we played, many times where, let's say we're playing a 2-on-2. I remember we were playing at LA Fitness in Miami when you had first started, when you were coaching at Miami-Dade College. Or times we would go play pickup at Mansion Park in Altoona, or even pickup games at Penn State Altoona, pick up at the Iron Building in State College, where, let's say there was some guy guarding West who for whatever reason, this guy was playing as if he thought he was as good as Wes, but we all knew he wasn't. And we're like, yo, you give Wes the ball, let him cook this dude, score all the points on him. And I would do the same thing. Somebody was kind of like, yo, I'm scoring all the points on this dude because he really thinks. Sometimes people just give off this energy, like, this dude really thinks he can play with me. Okay, I'm going to show him something otherwise. Or if I seen it in Wes, like, me and Wes might be playing a 5-on-5 on the same team. And I see the dude guarding him is playing as if he thinks he can compete. And I know he can't. And Wes, you might not even notice it yet, but I notice it. And I'm like, yo, dude really think he can play. And, oh, you know what? That's his girlfriend sitting on the sideline. I'm giving you the ball every play. I'm giving you the ball every play, and cook him in front of all his friends, because that's what it was. Like, that's the way that we raised each other's level. And if I wanted the ball, we were playing 2-on-2, and I'm like, yo, give me the ball every time. I'm scoring all the points. You knew I was going to do it. There was never a time I said it and I didn't do it, and there was never a time you said it and you didn't do it. Or if we challenged each other every time we came through, and that was only because we were challenging each other so much when it was just us. So when it was time for us to really compete, we were ready to go. And this is all what I'm talking about when I'm talking about being a dog. Everyone who's listening to this, and when I did that episode 853, again, it's not about how many shots we were getting up, even though we got up shots. It wasn't about dribbling drills, even though we did it. It wasn't about doing conditioning, even though we were doing that stuff. It was the mentality behind the work that put us in position to do what we did on the court. And there was a documentary on ESPN. Wes, I don't know if you saw it, but I know some of the listeners may have seen it. It was called The U, about the University of Miami football team. Did you see that, Wes? That documentary? Yeah, so years ago. So one of the things that the guys talked about, I don't remember exactly who it was that said it, but their whole mentality during that time where they had that run, like through the early 2000s and the 90s and the late 80s, everybody on that damn team was a dog. The whole team. Ray Lewis, Warren Sapp, Edgerrin James, Mike Irvin, all of those dudes was dogs. And one of the dudes said this. He said, he was a defensive player. I don't remember who it was. But he said, look, if you came to this school and you were not a dog, you wouldn't want to be on the football team. Like, you would tell the coach, look, let me out of my scholarship. I got to transfer, because the intensity and the way people would address you and deal with you, you wouldn't want to be there. You would have mental health issues trying to play on that football team, because they would be in your ass every single day. And it wasn't about your ability to play. Because look, you don't get a scholarship to University of Miami if you can't play. Right. It's the mentality, though. If you didn't have that mentality, like, you didn't want to deal with Ray Lewis and Warren Sapp. You didn't want to go in the locker room after practice, because they would have made you feel like a piece of shit because you weren't willing to compete. And I heard players who played at the U say that, like, look, my first week, I didn't know it was going to be like this. Like, I knew I was going to have to do the drills and work out, but I didn't know it was going to be like this. Like, the intensity that they brought to the table that made everybody raise their level. And it wasn't just one guy. Like, I told the story of the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan. I mean, everybody knows Michael Jordan. He raised the intensity for everybody by himself. But in that, it was the whole team. It was everybody. Right. So when it comes to putting a team together for you, I mean, when you're looking at, let's say if you're looking at players, or you look at the players that you already got, is there a way that you kind of identify who might be that guy, or if you want to teach those guys to be that guy? How do you suss that out of players?
I think it's something that you get when you start assessing guys' personalities. Like, do they have that kind of personality that they even want to be that guy? Because the first thing is, you got to want to be that person. Because once again, it ain't all peaches and cream. You can't have a wantness to be liked all the time when you want to be that guy. But to have a championship level team, I think you need a couple of those guys. Like, everybody can't be that nice guy that's going to open the door. Like, when you talk about those BK 3-on-3s, you don't win them joints if you weren't gritty. You couldn't even compete if you weren't gritty. So, like, everybody knows there's at least one guy on a good team that might be willing to scrap with somebody had it come to that over whatever you're trying to do. So if I see a person like that, I will once again try to foster that kind of stuff, anything else like that, because I think it is unique. But when you talk about a team full of dogs, like, they're gonna make it uncomfortable for somebody that's not one. Like, you're not even gonna want to be around those dudes if you're not that person, because they're just gonna make you feel like shit. They're gonna really, really get after you every single day. But for me, like, you gotta have one of them. So if I see somebody that kind of exhibits some of those tendencies, I'll try to bring that out of them. I'll try to tell them a couple of things that I wish I would have done in college had I had the chance to go back and have that kind of like team aspect of it. But I hope that gets across the answer, Dre.
Absolutely. And for me, even thinking about college, if I was to go, young people ask me often, if you could go back and do this over, what would you do differently and this and that? Listen, I would take all the physical stuff and have exactly the same if I could just change the mentality. If I could just change the mentality, all the results would be different. Give me the same skills. I wasn't even that good. And college people, by the end of my college career, and what you know, this people will be like, yo, just don't let him drive to the basket. Let him shoot all the jump shots he wants, but don't let him drive to the basket. I'll take that. Just give me the different mentality. I would have been 10 times better than I was. And, speaking of the BK 3-on-3, the team that actually won that 3-on-3 was my guy Reds from Philly. You know Reds. Mm-hmm. Reds was like Reds. So those of y'all don't know him. He wasn't on TV. Reds is like 6'4". He's about 240 pounds. This dude is just made of brick. Yeah, he's just made of brick. This dude is a damn tank. He describes himself as a tank. I seen him one day. He's like, man, I'm a tank, man. That's all I do. And all he does, Red's like a 6'4" center. All right, he can't shoot, can't dribble. All he does is post you up, beat you up, and make layups. That's the only thing he does, make layups. He can't make free throws. He don't dribble. All he does is make layups, but the dude is a damn dog. And like Wes said, in a street ball tournament, 3-on-3, it ain't about all that pretty shit. Like, you could have the most games, the most talent of anybody, but if you ain't no dog, you're not winning that tournament because you want to go up against a team of dudes who might have 80% of your games, but if they got that mentality, he's going to punk you off the court. And that's pretty much all it is. And you can't look at the rest. Right. Looking at the ref, you looking at the ref looking at you like, what you looking at me for? This is your game. And in street ball games, like, we play ball like it was street ball. Even though most of the time we was playing indoors, we play like it was street ball. Like, yo, you ain't got to call no fouls. Like, people try to give you fouls, like, yo, I ain't call foul. Keep playing. Right. You get knocked. We just going to keep going. And if you didn't have that mentality, like, it's like this for you ball players out there. You got to have the mentality that if there are no fouls being called, can you still win? Mm-hmm. And I don't mean can you play through contact and score, but what if there's a guy on the other team who's bigger and stronger than everybody, and when you come to the rim, he's just knocking you down? Can you beat that guy? What are you going to do if there's a guy on the other team who all he wants to do, and all y'all have played against a guy, those of you who play sports, you've all played against a guy who don't really want to play the sport. He just want to fight somebody because he can't really play. So as soon as he started losing, he tried to start doing some extracurricular stuff to try to make it into something other than the game. All y'all know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Now, when you go up against that guy, can you beat him if there's no referee to save you? If there's no coach? If there's nobody to talk some sense into him? What you going to do in that game? Are you going to just take the L because you don't want to confront that situation? Or what are you going to do? And we faced that many times. I remember the first time, when we first started going up to Penn State, main campus. Playing in the IN building. There were a couple guys who we ended up being cool with, but the first few times we played against them, they was looking at us like, oh, y'all think y'all nice, and they tried to bring the physical game to us. A lot of fouling, a lot of trash talking, a lot of like, yo, I don't care if you get mad, if you want to fight, we can fight. But we kicked their ass a couple times, and then they became friends with us because we weren't going to be pumped off the court. And a lot of athletes these days, I feel like it may not happen to you today, it may not happen tomorrow, but listen, if it's possible that you could be punked off the court, somebody's going to punk you off the court because they ain't got no other choice. If you got more talent than them, that's the only way they can win. Is that they got to do that to you. So what are you going to do when you go up against that person? And that's the thing. Even when I talk about this stuff, Wes, I don't know about you, but this stuff gets me wanting to play basketball. That's why I'm talking about basketball on my podcast, because it gets me wanting to play. Somebody's going to try to do that to you, and what are you going to do in that situation? And
go ahead. When you talk about it, it's like because between me, you, and B, I mean, we had to win at least 10 3-on-3s. I got me a BK 3-on-3 championship too. But when you talk about it, you got to be a dog. You got to be gritty to go in there and do stuff like that. But when you talk about you can't be allowed to get yourself punked off the court, there's just a certain level of toughness that comes on that initial. And I think it comes when you talk about it, don't listen to the stories, but the mentality. Even the weekend that I got married, me, Dre, B, Tone, TP, Blaze, like a couple of our college teammates, fellas.
Yeah.
We went in the gym because we just wanted to play. Now, none of us, maybe Dre was probably in some kind of shape. The rest of us really wanted to shape. Wanted shape to go up and down like this and everything else like that. And I can vividly remember, like, Dre guarded me on something on game point. I came off the curl, made the shot on him, and talked shit to him. But I can vividly remember, like, him, like, trying to be physical with me because he knew I was coming off that, and me just, like, smacking his hand, like, as hard as I could down. And it was just one of them things, like, it's the mentality of it. None of us were in great shape, but, like, as soon as the hit, competitive juices started flowing, and, like, for that 2 hours, none of us were boys. And I'm going to go ahead and say that, like, after that, I was drained. I went back home and took a nap to the hotel, took a nap for, like, 2 hours because I wasn't in no shape. But once the juices started going and we started trash talking each other, it's just the mentality that you got to have. Not getting punked off the court, ready to compete every single time that you step out there. It's just the mentality. And once you start developing that, you will never let nobody punk you off the court. Like, we're cool with those guys. At State now, they're my boys, Smack, Rawdy, 6ix9ine, Gunna, Coop, all them dudes. But, like, they ain't know us. We was just other brothers. They know we didn't go to school up there. So they was like, yo, who the heck are these dudes? So they immediately, and they were from Philly. Dre is from Philly. Most of them are from Philly. And the thing I learned being from Carolina, dudes from Philly, they just have a different type of energy. Like, they come with this, like, I'm from Philly, gritty toughness that I'm tougher than you, I'm going to punk you. And that's almost everybody I met from Philly. And then me from being from the country of North Carolina, they're looking at this dude like, you from North Carolina? Okay, we're going to immediately see how tough you are. I'm like, okay, that's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of that weekend, the weekend that you had got married, your boy Sellers, who, like you said, he was a D3 All-American. Sellers was looking like, when I seen him, he was looking like a bodybuilder, right? He wasn't even, he was in shape, not basketball shape. Like, he was in weight room shape. Like, he was looking like a bodybuilder, but the first half of that day, he was dominating. Like, he was the best player on the court the first half of the day. He wasn't missing shots because, and I didn't ask him about this, and he didn't say it, but I know, like, once he got on the court, it just, that mentality turns on. And then you just start going. Like, he felt like he had to prove something, even though it was a gym with people that already knew him. Nobody was watching. It wasn't no cameras in the gym, but he just wanted to do his thing. And segueing right into what you just said, talking about those guys at State College, So basically, to give y'all the background, everyone who's listening, me, Wes, and my roommate, our teammate B, we looked around at the gym that we had at Altoona. We would play pickup every night at Penn State Altoona, and again, some teammates of ours are listening. And they can admit this, that they didn't play ball as often as we played. They weren't as serious as we were. And there were sometimes we would be wanting to play pickup. Me and Wes would be like, yo, let's go play somewhere. We go to the gym at Altoona, ain't nobody in there. Right. Where are we going to go play? So we just got the bright idea. I don't know where we got it. I think we got it from B, because I think at the time our teammate B, his girl went to the main campus, right, at State College. So she had tipped him off like, yo, they play pickup at this building up here. It's called the Intramural Building. The Penn State's main campus is huge. They got all these buildings to play ball in. And she said they play basketball there. Why don't you just come up here? And so B told us, and we like, we didn't ask no questions. We didn't say, like, the kind of questions players ask me these days, how competitive is it? What's the chances I can get on the court? Who's going to be in there? Are they going to let us in? None of that bullshit. We like, they playing ball up there? We going. Like, we went on motherfucking mapquest.com, because this is before smartphones. Right? We had to get directions, and we drove up there. The three of us in the car, and we drove up to State College to see what's up. And the first couple times we played, there weren't too many people in there, just random guys in there. Play for fun guys that were playing the D League at our gym were up there playing. But we kicked ass a couple weeks and word started getting around. And this is what happens, people. And this is something that I talked about a couple days ago on the show, is that people say, well, I'm new in the place, or I'm new in the industry. I don't know anybody. Where do I go to get myself seen? Like, you ain't got to go anywhere. Go anywhere where you can do your thing. If you're good, somebody's going to notice it, and they're going to say, yo, where you from? Who taught you? What do you do? Where else do you be at? Do you know this person? You know this person? Do you know about this that's going on? You know about this on Tuesday? You know about this on Thursday night? somebody's going to recognize you and they're going to put you on to the next thing. Then take that, go to the next. You're like a detective trying to solve a case, basically. Every little idea you get is a new lead. So let me go investigate that. All right, this lead nowhere. Let me go investigate this. Oh, what about this? Let me try this. So we went up there and we kicked ass for a couple of weeks against some bums. And then all of a sudden, the maybe second, third week, we went up there. Now all these black guys come in the gym. Now, I mean, let's keep it real, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now black guys just think they could play basketball. All right, and then these dudes wasn't that much more talented than the other guys, but they thought they were. And this is the thing. Because they thought they were, they actually were. It was a tougher game for us to play against them than it was these guys who was kind of playing for fun. So these dudes came in like 6, 7 deep. They had a little cheering section with them. They had a couple girls with them. And they like, oh, y'all from Penn State opportunity, because we had our practice jerseys on. And they like, okay, let's see. And we started playing against them. They was playing us real physical. They was fouling hard, elbows getting thrown, dirty look, little extra stuff after the whistle for a couple weeks. But after we kicked their ass a couple times, we became cool. And we became cool with them dudes. And even to this day, like you said, when you were at in-state college, you got cool with these guys. And the point that I'm making in telling that, and I want Wes to add on to this, is that anywhere that we heard there was a game going on, and there's a few other places we're going to talk about here, anywhere we heard that it was popping in basketball, because we was basketball players, and we had this ambition that, and Wes and I mean, we didn't even have, come to think of it, Wes, we never had a deep conversation about, what we going to do after college to play ball. We never had this long conversation of strategizing or planning it. I knew you wanted to go somewhere. You knew I wanted to go somewhere. So it was understood. We didn't have to say that. It was understood, okay, if the gym is open and we don't have class, we working out. Yeah. If there's nobody playing pickup and we heard this pickup being played 45 minutes away from here, we going. If it's a league and we can get in that league, we signing up for that league. We didn't never talk about it. We just had it. If you called me and said, they playing pickup at 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow at such and such, I'm like, all right, go just call me. I'll be ready. And if I said, I heard there's a game happening over here, they got a league happening over here, we're going to play with this guy's team. You like, okay, well, let me know what I got to do. I got to sign the paperwork. Just bring it over here. I'll sign it. It wasn't a conversation. And I want you to tell me what your mentality was at that time. Like I said, we never had a conversation about it. It was just something that was understood. And I remember one more thing. One day we came to the gym. I remember we were sitting in there, you and I. We would get to the gym probably about 6 o'clock because the pickup would start probably around 6:30 every day on our campus. And we would get there early and nobody would be in there. And then guys would start trickling in slowly. They'd be walking in, got their shoes on the floor, take their time getting dressed. And one day Wes looked at me and he said, dudes is on the basketball team, but they don't come play pickup. They don't come work out. Like, that's foreign to me. It's like a foreign, what are these dudes doing? Like, I don't understand that. I remember you said that to me one day. I don't know if you remember that conversation, but I was like, yeah, exactly. Like, that I was on the same page as you. Like, I didn't understand. I was excited to come play. I was waiting for class to be over. Listen, there's many times I skip class. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not telling y'all to do this. There are many times I skip class, like, it's popping in the gym tonight. I ain't going to class. I'm coming to play pickup. I'm not telling you students, I'm not telling y'all to do that. All right, that's one thing you should not follow of mine. But Wes, I talked a lot on that little point there, but I want you to tell me what your mentality was when it came to let's go find where these guys is at and let's make it happen.
Like, I wanted, for me, it was really simple. Like, I wanted to play against the best guys. And being in Central Pennsylvania, to be honest, like, the guys on our campus, like, say if me and Dre split up or me and Jay split up, like, I could get a good bump that day. That'd be cool. But it's taken for days that, like, me and Dre on the same team, it wasn't as fun. I wanted to play against the best players. So, like, St. Francis was right down the road, and, like, they had some dudes. Like, they had dudes. So, like, when I picked up, I would say within a couple of weeks, our pickup was like born. Like, we was dominating them dudes. Wasn't nobody really like coming with it from the competitive standpoint. So, like, we had to go out and find games. Like, we had to go out in Altoona. We had to go to Mansion. We had to go to Tyrone. We had to go to the KNY. We had to go to State College. We had to go to St. Francis. We had to go to IUP. Like, we had to go to all these different places. We had to go to Mount Aloysius because the runs, like, we'd essentially maxed out the runs that we had. Like, dudes didn't want to compete no more. So, like, and then the other thing about it, like, we had to go to State College and all these places. A lot of the times, it would just be me, Dre, and B. So any big guy, D got, any point guard I got, any wing Dre got. So we essentially had to pick up 2 more dudes. So we had to pick up 2 random people in all those places that we was playing. So like we was playing handicap essentially because a lot of the times they're not gonna give us 2 other good players. They don't really know us or anything else like that. So when we head up the state, we were really playing 3.5 on 5, but we had to go get the best run. And they weren't there. So like when we started playing at State College, like those dudes was like better. And like they came with like that grittiness and that toughness because once again, they didn't know us, so they tried to punk us and it won't happen in there. And then from there, I think a mutual respect was gained between us then. And then essentially it led us being cool off the court. But like, had we not be tough, had they like punked us, like how I went to the hole and get fouled one time and I started bitching or asking for a call, they would have ran us out the gym. We would have never went back to State College. And something that I heard from Dre is the thing that happened when we started going up to state and playing is everybody used to come out. Like I still talk to like the women's team came out, like Tanisha Wright, Bree, I still talk to them, Kelly Mazzanti, who's assistant at IUP. They came out and they were good. We competed against them. And it was like a bunch of people. So by the time I would say we was going up there for about a month, like those games were like extremely competitive. Like it might be one game we was playing against like Smack and Gunn and all them boys. And then Penn State men's team came in there. I still talked to Marlon Smith. He came in there a couple of times, Jan Yagler, to get the strong dude named him. And then the next game, it might be the women. So like you talking about high level players, like when we used to go up to State College, and that was something you just couldn't get at Altoona.
Right.
Some of my other favorite runs was St. Francis. Like they had dudes, Eric Wills, Lucky, big dude Stevie, Jason, TJ, Darnell. Yeah, I mean they had dudes, and for us, like I can vividly remember, like they used to hoop at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And then when you talk about like the people that was like, if you good, just go to a court. Like we just found out about the runs. So we went up there, they didn't know who the heck we was. We coming to the gym at like 10 o'clock. I remember the first time they kind of like carried us crazy. Like they was like running the games back, like we would have a net and they was running the games back, like not showing us no respect. And then we ended up, I think either me or you got on the court and they saw we could play a little bit. So they was like, okay, you know, we hooping tomorrow at 9 p.m. Like y'all come back. And after that, once again, a mutual respect was on. But like, if we knew where the runs was at, like we was there. There was no question. And like for us, I don't know about you, Dre, but like them dudes at St. Francis, like I had a little chip when I wanted to play them because they were already at Division I. So they were perceived to be better than us already. So like I really like competing against those guys. Like me and I think that summer, me, you, George, I forget the little point guard, maybe CJ and Darnell. Like that was some of the best bump of the summer. Like we was playing twos against them. We was playing full court. We was running some. But like those dudes made me raise my level, just from the fact that they was at Division I and they thought they were better than us and see better than us. And like I really wanted to get after them dudes pretty good. But like those St. Francis was some of my favorite runs. But like I said, like if somebody was hooping within an hour, 2 hour radius, like we was there. It didn't matter the time. It didn't matter who told us. It didn't matter how we had to get there. If we had to take Dre car, my car, beat, whatever, we was there.
Exactly. And it's like in State College, just more of that State College story. After we started coming in there and kicking ass, like you said, we got the mutual respect from those other guys on that campus only because we didn't back down. We already had them in skill. We knew we had them in skill, but we were playing on the road. I mean, I gave y'all the episode that every opportunity you get in life ain't going to be a home game. Like it's not going to be set up for you to win. You're not going to have a cheering section. It's going to be some unfairness against you. It's a road game. You're going to have some road games in life. And if you can't win on the road, you ain't winning no championship. That's the bottom line. I mean, you saw the NBA finals. You saw the Warriors going to Cleveland and beat them 2 times on their court. If you can't win on the road, even if you got home court advantage, most of the time you ain't winning no championship. You got to be tough enough to win those road games. And I've heard many athletes, Kobe, LeBron, Jordan, they would all say, I love playing on the road even more than I like playing at home because it's a satisfaction that you get from going in there and shutting down those fans and beating them on their home court when all the advantage is on their side, but you kick their ass anyway. Like, there's nothing better than that. That's the best feeling is to win on the road. So, me personally, and Wes, I'll let you speak on it. I love playing pickup outside of Altoona. I love to go to Mansion Park where you had all these people from Altoona looking at me like, all right, we know you ain't from here. Let's see what he can do. We play against the hometown superstar, or going up to State College where they all looking at us like, wait a minute. Like, those of you who have never been to Penn State, it ain't that many black guys walking around Penn State's campus. All right? So when we walked in there, they knew we wasn't from there. They looking at us like, all right, who's these dudes? And black guys looking at us like, all right, y'all gonna try to come up here and beat somebody on this campus. Y'all got to go through us. I love that. Was more fun than playing at Altoona to me. And playing at St. Francis, like playing against these guys because they were a D1 school, like you said. And a D1 player is supposedly on paper supposed to be better than a D3 player. So I was more looking forward to that game than playing against somebody that played at Penn State Altoona because I knew I was better than some of those guys. But I wanted to play against a D1 dude to prove it.
Yeah. I tweeted that, I think probably like 4 days ago, I tweeted that just like because I randomly thought about it. I was like, I always like playing on the road more than I did at home. I think it was in Kobe's, he wrote an article for Dime. Some people don't even know what Dime is. Dime is like a basketball magazine, like from back in the day. I'll probably say like 10, 15 years. But he wrote an article. And in the article, they do? Well, he wrote in the article, I had to read that thing like 50 times. But what he wrote was, I like the satisfaction of hearing the silent road crowd more than I do a roaring crowd when I'm hitting the buzzer beater. Like, I like to see people silent. And that's how I felt about when we went off and played these pickup games. Like you said, like Altoona, like I felt like we had mastered that. Like that was cool. That was cool. You know, we dominated them. But like, can you go on the road? Can you go do it on just somebody else? Somebody way better, somebody way tougher. Can you go do it somewhere else? And I think we relatively proved that everywhere in Central Pennsylvania that we could go step on the court and compete against anybody. But it goes back just like mentality that you had to start with it when we were doing it by ourselves. Like when me and Dre were walking in the gym, working out by ourselves, it's like a mentality. And you start it by yourself and then you carry it over so you have it by the time like some adversity hits, like when we were going to State College and getting fouled and stuff like that. But it started like we was playing by ourselves. But like, yeah, I loved it. Those are the days. Those pickup sessions, man, they were pretty good.
They were. And the thing is with State College is kind of like I said a couple of moments ago on what Wes said, if you show your game and you show that you can play, it's like the other people who can play, and the other people who got game, and the people who are looking for guys who got game, they start coming out the woodwork like roaches, like termites.
Right.
They just want to start showing up just because is the energy of the universe. A dude who can play and another dude who can play living in the same city, they eventually going to run into each other. It's guaranteed. They don't even have to be looking for each other. Because as long as you out doing what you do and I'm out doing what I do, we are going to run into each other. So when we went up to State College, we played against some random guys who weren't that serious. Then we played against some more random guys who were serious. Then the men's basketball team started showing up. They never came to the Iron Building. Like, for those of y'all who understand, at a D1 campus, I mean, Wes, you at a D1 school, the guys on your team, if they don't want to, they could go to a gym that the regular students can't even come in the building, right? They got their own gym. Right, so if they don't never want to deal with a regular student on the basketball court, they don't have to. Right? And State College is a big-ass campus. They got a lot of money, and they got a lot of facilities. The basketball team at State College does not have to come into the intramural building. Y'all know what intramurals are, right? Intramurals is for people who don't play on the sports team to play for fun. They didn't ever have to set foot in that building if they didn't want to. The only reason they came in that building because they heard it was some dudes from another campus coming in there like they were somebody. Oh, we need to hold down our. They were, we need to hold down our campus. Like, this is our home court. Like, we're not gonna let some dudes come in here and run our gym. So they had to come in there and see what was going on. And what's crazy, Wes, and I want you to speak to this, and you talked about this when we talked on the phone, their whole team ain't even show up. They ain't even have 5. They had like 4 guys off the hoop team who showed up to the gym. I'm like, don't y'all got 15 people on the roster where everybody else is. They didn't even show up. So these guys was on, and this is the thing, people who are listening, they on D1 scholarships, like going to school for free. Like, we was at a D3, we didn't have scholarships. We going everywhere hooping. These guys didn't even show up on their own campus, and there's some other dudes on their campus running the gym. Like, that didn't make sense to me. That's the foreign language that I'm talking about that you mentioned to me that day.
And that was like, I forgot the strong dude's name. Young Island came in there. Marlon came in there. So like after we started getting cool,
Tyler Smith will come around.
Tyler Smith will come
showed up. Yeah.
And as we got cooler, you know, with those other guys like Gunner, like Karras and them dudes, like, and we start respecting each other's games. And like I'm like, yo, like y'all here, y'all can hoop. Like, where the damn hoop team at? And like I'm asking them, they're like, oh, them, like they part-time hoopers, like they don't really be hooping like that. And I was like, oh, so like I mean, when we talked about the women's team, like they was coming in there, the women's team at Penn State times, like they was going to the tournament, but they was in that joint like 9-10 deep, like their whole squad was over there playing pickup, and like they was hooping, they was over there beating dudes. Like you had to bring your game when you played against them, like Tanisha and Breeze, Kelly, all them. Like
they was the only people who beat them. They beat everybody else.
Like you had to bring that game. Like Tanisha played the WNBA. Like Bree played overseas for a long. Kelly overseas in the like. But like the point being, I could tell that they weren't no part-time hoopers because their whole team was over there. And like they had Bryce Jordan. They had courts over there in Bryce Jordan that they could have played pick up right by themselves, but they was coming over there because they wanted to compete against the best. And at that time, we was over there. Some of the men's team was over there. Like smacking all them guys was over there. So like they was coming over there to get the best runs, but like I really didn't see the other team as much. Like they only sprinkled, they sprinkled in there. But yeah, right. That's foreign to me. That's foreign to me.
And Bryce Jordan that you mentioned, for people who don't know, that's the arena where they play their games at. I mean, the basketball team, if you want to, you can go in that gym damn near anytime you want and get a workout in, and nobody else can interrupt you. Like no random. I know basketball players say to me, I know growing up, I'll go to a court to get a workout in, but then there's some 12-year-olds over here, some dudes playing 3-on-3 over here. I can't even get a court to myself. But when you're on a college campus, a big campus, like a D1, like where you at West or at State College, you can get an empty gym anytime you feel like it.
Right.
So they didn't have to come in there and play with us. They played because they were basketball players. Like, I don't care if I got a gym in my house. If I hear it's some ball players next door, I'm going next door. Because I want to see I want to see what's up. I want to see what's going on. So when it comes to that environment, you know, that we were just talking about in our minds, and then taking it everywhere that we went. You mentioned that St. Francis, going and playing at St. Francis. I talked about this a few times when I tried to dunk on the other athletic guy, quote unquote athletic dude for their team, and he just blocked my dunk like it was nothing. Yeah, his name is CJ. He blocked my dunk like it was nothing. I remember I was laying on the floor because with momentum, he didn't foul me. He just blocked my dunk, and it was so clean that I went backwards. And he was just standing there holding the ball. I'm laying on the floor, looking up. The whole game stopped, and everybody went around just to make sure I was all right. And I was a little bit shocked from falling on the floor, but it was really my ego because I'm like, shit. Yeah, this is my calling card, being athletic. Now this dude just showed me maybe I'm not that athletic.
And he was like 3 inches taller. He was about 6'7" too.
Yeah, he was about 6'7", but he was the athletic dude. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I wasn't saying that. I mean, yeah, he was taller than me, but look, if I go to the next level, I'm gonna have to go against somebody like that. So what am I going to bring to the table? And that's where I told myself, like, okay, I need to step my game up. And that's where I could look at somebody like Wes. All right, Wes is pretty much my size, but we had completely different games. So Wes got the handle. Then I remember, and I talked about this the first time you were on, Wes. Yo, show me that crossover. Yo, show me how you do that. So I needed to add something else to my game. I don't know if I could add another 10 inches to my vertical, because I probably wouldn't need another 10 to dunk on that dude, because there was no way I could out jump him. and that's when I started adding more to my game. But it was all about the mentality of, okay, all right, you beat me this way, I got to figure out a different way to beat you. I'm not just going to say I can't beat you. There was a dude on our team. I don't think you played with him. You played pickup with him. This dude named Andy, who went to Penn State Altoona. You probably remember him. White guy named Andy. He was on the basketball team my sophomore year, the year before Wes got there. And I remember one day we were just having random conversation, and he was like, he didn't think a player from a D3 school could beat a player from a D1 school. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? You never even played against nobody like that. But he had this mentality like, you just can't, because you're D3 and he's D1. He was looking at guys like, oh, this guy must just be better than me. I'm not even going to try just because of the level that he's at. I just never understood that mentality. Like, I couldn't get that. I'm like, dude, you wouldn't even play? Like, you wouldn't even try? And this is the way that he was thinking. And I remember one day we were playing pickup, and Wes and Andy got into it, and Wes shut Andy up pretty quickly. I ain't going to repeat what he said to him. But I remember that. I just remember that one day. But it was all about, I mean, to on this topic that we're talking about is just about looking for those games. Like wherever those games were happening, it wasn't if it happened, we were going and looking for it and trying to find these people and making it happen.
Right.
So if you are a rapper, you're a singer, you're a poet, you should be at every open mic in your town. Wherever it's happening, you're there. If you're a basketball player, you're at every open gym, every pickup game. If you're an artist, a street artist, or any kind of artist, you get in the street and you start drawing. You stop somebody and say, look, let me draw a picture of you for free. If you like it, you put a couple dollars in this box. You go out there and you paint. You get on the street. I don't know in everybody's city who's listening to this, if you see the street performers, they'll make a little circle, they'll get a crowd, and then they'll start doing these performances. They're doing backflips and dances and chants, and then they got the little box. They send a little kid around to collect some money, but they're trying to get on. They're performing. They're doing what they do, and it's not sitting at home on your Facebook or your Instagram hoping something happens. It's going out and making it pop. Like, these are the principles of getting yourself seen. And what I was talking about there with Wes, when the dude blocked my dunk, and I said, okay, I can't just go off athleticism no more. I might have to pick another dude who can do that. It's the principles of, it's a competitive drive with yourself to improve. So Wes, the question I want to ask you is, what was it, or what did you experience, or who did you go against? I know you mentioned on episode 714, the time you went against Mike Isolino, the guy who had NBA experience, and he kind of gave you a rough time one day. But what other experiences did you go through that made you really have to have a reality check and say, you know what, I need to step my game up. I need to improve. What I have right now is not quite enough.
That's a great one. I'm gonna say for me, it started my sophomore year. Actually, hold on. Let me regress. My junior year of high school. So I was unquestionably the best player at my high school. It wasn't close. So that year, I got invited to 5-star camp at Hampton, Sydney. And then when I got there, I was like, whoa. One of the first people, like, I was a 6'2", I would say at that time, I was more of a two guard than a point guard. So I was 6'2". So my very first game, I played against Roger Mason. So Roger Mason is the Roger Mason from the NBA. I think he's retired now, but I think he went to Wheaton Good Counsel High School. He was 6'5", and he gave me everything I wanted that day. So I had a couple of those. It was Kevin Gaines was a 6'4" point guard. I think he might have hit to Michigan. There was probably like 5 or 6 guys that I went up against at 5. So I had to come home, and I was like, whoa, I got to get bigger. I got to get stronger. I got to get faster, athletic. I got to shoot better. So that was my first like reality check. And then after I kind of like checked myself, like I got to work harder and do all this other stuff. My senior year, my crosstown rival was Teron Downey. So Teron went and played 4 years at Wake Forest, scored 1,000 points. He was a really good player. But he was a junior and I was a senior. And he kind of kicked my ass as a senior. So that was another one that had happened. So like I had one my junior year, I had one my senior year, and I was like, this dude's a junior and he's doing this shit. I was like, whoa, I need to get it together. And I think I've had a matchup versus one of those people almost every year until I probably got to like my sophomore year of college, where I felt like that I didn't feel like I was overmatched. And like, that's what I'm telling people right now. Like, I was overmatched. Like, they had more talent, more skill. It wasn't close. And like, if I was going to get to where those guys were at, I had to have a really hard conversation with myself. So then by the time you're talking about going up against a guy like Marlon Smith or Brandon Watkins, who was playing overseas at Penn State and came back, B-Watt. So by the time I go up against somebody like that again, like, I look like them physically. My skill set is to match theirs. So like, by the time we got to St. Francis, I didn't feel like I was overmatched and outclassed in talent, work ethic, or anything else like that. But I had a couple early on that were kind of rough on me.
You mentioned going to 5-star camp. Could you tell everybody what 5-star camp is? Everybody doesn't know what that is.
So 5-star, they still have them, but at the time it was like almost like an invitational only camp where they would have scouts come out, and the best players, I think they had like maybe 5 of them at the time, but they would have the best players from the region come out, and some of the best coaches, and they put you through individual skill work. You kind of get a chance to kind of see what, like, they would structure your day like a college basketball player. And like, you would start early in the morning, you go to skill set, you go to like basketball practices, 5-on-0 sessions, and then in the nighttime, like they split you up and you play pickup. Games. 5-on-5 scheduled games. And like I said, they were the best players. Like I was a big, how's that thing go? A big fish in a small pond? Coming from Creedmoor, North Carolina, a 2A school. They had
small fish in a big pond.
Small fish in a big pond. So, yeah. So when I got there and I saw those dudes, like, I was at the time like barely dunking. And I'm seeing dudes windmilling. I'm seeing dudes pulling up from NBA and do his handle. I was 6'2", Roger Mason 6'5". I'm like, oh. So that was kind of like my first reality check, like that. Like they're doing it on another level, and you better quickly figure out how you can get to this level, or you're gonna get past and you're gonna get eaten alive.
All right. So Roger Mason is, I think he's one of the heads of the NBA Players Association these days.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, he stopped playing. Were there any, at that 5-star you went to, Wes, any notable players that a casual fan would know by name?
Zach Randolph was at the camp.
How was he looking? How did he play?
He was a goon. You want to talk about a dog now? Zach Randolph was a dog, and that's what I'm saying. I'm coming from a small 2A high school, and I finally get on the court, and like it's a little bit different now. But I'm like literally, it used to be a section in Slam called Punks, and in Punks, they fight about the best high school players in the country, and like now, 2 hours from my house, coming from I read about this dude, and I'm on the court with him the first day of a pickup, and he was a dog. Now Zach Randolph was a dog from the gate. Yeah. Like we're gonna talk about one, like he was a dog now, but him, Roger Mason, gosh dang, I'm missing somebody. I think there was probably like 4 or 5 guys that ended up in the league that had good careers that was at that same 5-star that I was at.
Well, thinking of, there was one day that you talked about, you mentioned it a couple minutes ago. This was in the summer, for everybody to paint the picture. This is the summer of 2004. So I just graduated. This is the end of our senior year. And Wes knew you were cool with a couple guys still from St. Francis. We had played pickup there a couple times, but Wes was cool with a couple of their players. So one of their guys, a guy named George, I guess he had told Wes, like, yo, come to the gym, let's get a workout in, let's do whatever. So we get there, and there was only George that day. This is in the summertime, so the school was out. So everybody, I guess, was home, but me and Wes were in Altoona. George was there on his campus. Now, he's like a power forward on this D1 school, and he had invited one of his teammates, who was this point guard. Like, white kid was a point guard. So it was the 4 of us in the gym. We ended up playing 2-on-2.
Oh, yeah,
that day. Yeah, me and Wes talked about this extensively the other day when we spoke on the phone. And this was I don't know how you were thinking, Wes. I'll let you answer. But for me, this was an important day for me because, like I said, coming from a D3 school, playing against a guy who's at a D1, and he's supposed to be, just on paper, this guy's better than me. He has a stronger pedigree. He's playing at a higher level. He's just supposed to be better, period. And we end up playing 2-on-2 against these guys, and that was one of my favorite games of 2-on-2, favorite days. First of all, just to give the short story long, we kicked their ass. Long story short, we kicked their ass that day, those 2 guys from this D1 school. But it was a battle. It wasn't, they didn't lay down. They didn't take it. The ball ended up getting kicked, booted into the stands by somebody. We're not going to say who did it. Somebody
might be listening.
Yeah, he might be listening. Kicked the ball into the stands, but we kicked their ass in the gym that day. Well, I know you remember the day, but what was your mentality going into that day of 2-on-2 against those guys?
I mean, it was kill. For me, it was kill. Just because, number one, I don't know how you felt about it, but like that first, I think we worked out a little bit before, and then we started playing too.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of giving off this like vibe, like they was better than us. And I think it even spilled into the early part of the 2-on-2, like, because I can remember like one time, like, I mean, I could shoot, and then like one time, the kid was like, he was like off me a little bit, and he just kind of did like a little like bullshit contest, like he ain't gonna make that, and I kind of felt disrespected. And from there, I just turned it up a little bit, and we did. We kicked their ass. Now it was a battle, but we won every game. I think we probably played like 4 or 5 games, but we won every single game until we didn't have no ball because he booted it into the thing. But for me, I felt a little bit slighted, a little bit disrespected from where we played at, that he didn't respect me as he would respect like one of his teammates. So I had to quickly make him understand that I wasn't no damn stooge, that I could play. And it didn't go well for that kid that day. I don't remember his name, but it didn't go well for that kid that day.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either, but we do remember George. George, if you listening, get that ball out of this thing.
Of the Raptors.
Yeah, the Raptors is where you kicked it. Now,
he was pissed.
Yeah, when I was playing, I would always try to find I would always want to play against the best players. You know, there are times, like I asked you a couple minutes ago, when did you have a challenge when you realized, hey, I need to get better? Speaking of St. Francis, the first time we played pickup at St. Francis, I think it might have been the same day that I got my dunk block. Their best player was this dude named Lucky.
That boy.
He was averaging about 25 points a game. He's one of the leading scorers in the nation. And I was guarding him the first game we played.
Yeah.
The first time this guy got the ball, this is a true story. The first time this dude got the ball, I got into a defensive stance, and by the time I got into my stance, he had already faced one way. Then he caught the ball, jab step one way, took one dribble. He shot a pull-up jump shot. I was turning around. I was turning my neck around to watch him shoot the ball, and it went in the net. I never saw somebody make a move that fast. But and even though, that was I never got scored on that easily before in my life by anybody before he did that move. But the point was, even after that day, I didn't look at it like, okay, well, I guess this means this is why I'm playing D3 and he's playing D1. It was like, how do I improve? Like, I got to step my game up. How can I get to where this dude is at? And he didn't. And after he scored, he didn't say nothing. I never even heard the dude talk. He didn't say nothing. He didn't do no hand signals. He didn't dance. It was normal for him. He was expecting to do that. Right. He had been doing it. He had been doing that against D1 players all year. Like, he was averaging 25 points a game. Like, that was normal for him. So I'm like, what I'm thinking is, how do I get myself to where that's a normal thing for me? Because if I had did that, people would have been like, wow, like Dre got better. But I want to make it where people like, if I don't do it, it's a big deal. You remember that guy?
Oh, shit. Lucky was cold now. They had their whole crew full of guards. I felt like that was another one for me. I felt like that too. Like having to guard like Eric Wills. He played in high school with DeMar Johnson. DeMar Johnson was the number one player in my high school class. So I knew him a little bit. But like he had this handle, like when we going around playing people, like nobody had a handle like mine. But like when I stepped in there, he made my shit look average. It was like, yo, I got to step it up even more. And then they had another dude named Sonny. And Sonny, you remember Sonny? Like Sonny, he was like crazy quick, but he had a strap. He had a cannon. He was probably the best shooter that I'd seen. And I thought I was one of the better shooters that was out there. And then when I saw him, I was like, yo, I gotta start shooting more. Like, if this is the normal up here, this is the kind of people that I'm going to be competing against if I want to go play professionally. So I knew right then and there, like, yo, my strap got to look like his. My handle got to be even tighter than Eric's. The Eric was like 6'1". I think Sonny was like 6 foot. But I was still like, I got to get more shots. If he's up here, 15 minutes down the road playing D1 looking like this, I can't be a D3 looking like that. Like, I gotta step mine up like right now, like the next day, like we was in the gym. And then we was like, and the second part of that mentality is, and it's to piggyback off what you said, Dre, it's not that like, oh yeah, he's D1, D3. It's like now that I've seen that, I got to come back the next day. Like I'm improving, but now I got to come back. It wasn't like we went to St. Francis and we talk about our pickup record at Altoona all the time. It was in the 90% winning percentage. We went up to St. Francis, it was probably about 25. You know what I'm saying? It was like, we weren't going up there like the 2 and 2 days. We kicked their ass, but a lot of those times they was ass kicking and we was on the other side of them. But we had to learn tough lessons from those. Like when you talking about Lucky making that move, he was a bad boy, but like now I was like, okay, now I see where the bar is at, where I got to get to, because that's what I'm going to be competing against if I want to be a professional. I got to look like this. So now the second part of it is like, you got to pick yourself off the mat. You got to come back. You got to come back and compete that next day. So them pickup sessions at St. Francis were really, really good for me in a lot of ways.
Exactly. And it was like, after that day, after those nights when we would go play at St. Francis, it's kind of like, What you probably remember in the summer of 2004 where I picked up that heavy ball. Remember that heavy ball? That basketball that was like a medicine ball? So it was this thing, for everybody listening, it was this thing called the heavy ball, which was, it was a regular basketball, but it weighed like 3 times as much as a normal ball. So if you use the heavy ball, you dribbled it for like, you could dribble the heavy ball for like 4 minutes. And then you pick up a regular basketball, it feels like a tennis ball. It feels so light. You can shoot the ball from like 40% deeper than you normally did, just because it was like you trained for harder than what you actually needed. So, and the metaphor that I want to draw from using the heavy ball is that after we played with those guys at St. Francis, you know, we get back to Penn State Altoona. I'm walking in the gym at Altoona like, man, I can't even be playing in here. Like, I can't get better playing in this gym. Like, I know I'm going to do what I'm going to do in here, and it's fun, and, you know, you get the attention and whatever, but I got to go play against them. How am I going to get to the level that these guys is at St. Francis playing in here? And again, and this is no disrespect to nobody who was playing at Altoona, but this is the reality of playing on that campus. Like, people didn't have the same mentality about basketball. Those dudes, what the stuff that they was doing was that was normal to them. Like, we're talking about it because it was like a big thing in us because we weren't used to experiencing it. But him blocking somebody's dunk, he probably blocked a whole bunch of people's dunks. Like, the guy lucky just scoring on people so quick, he probably did that all the time. And, you know, crossing people over, and they had a big guy, Jason Osborne. Remember, we saw him at that exposure camp in Jersey that time we went to, like a year later. He was like 6'10". So he was used to, you know, bodying people out the way. So it wasn't a big deal to them. They were used to doing that to people. So I'm like, man, how do I get to the level where it's normal for me to be doing the stuff that these guys are doing? So I wasn't looking at it like, man, I'm going to take this back to where I'm at. I need to come back here so I can get to these guys' level. Did you think that way?
No, absolutely.
Wes, you remember Jay Jameson?
Yeah.
You mentioned the best shooters that you ever dealt with. Where would you rank Jay?
He probably had to be in the top 5.
Yeah, Jay Jameson is my guy from Lansdale, PA. I don't know if Jay listens to my podcast. Jay is a good dude. The last organized game that I played in, it was a 3-on-3. Me, this guy Reds that we mentioned about an hour ago, and Jay Jameson. And listen, you got those two guys on a 3-on-3 team, you pretty much win. As long as the third guy ain't a bum, and I ain't no bum, you're gonna win.
Tough dude who can make the shot.
Yeah, Jay Jameson is one of the best shooters I've ever seen. This dude had an absolute cannon. He was one of the best. I mean, this guy, he basically didn't. You left him open, it was a guaranteed 3-pointer. Guaranteed, damn near every time. And Jay actually, a lot of players ask me about walking on. Jay walked on at Temple University. He was a backup point guard. He's a backup point guard to Lynn Greer at Temple University in college. But at this point here, before we move on to some other stuff we want to talk about, dogs, I remember I was at the Big Three, and you mentioned DeMar Johnson. I think he played in the Big. Was it him playing in the Big Three? I'm not sure if it was DeMar. I think it was DeMar Johnson playing in the Big Three, the 3-on-3 tournament the Ice Cube had, 3-on-3 league. But when I was at the Big Three, they came to Miami, and Ron Artest and Steven Jackson are on the team together. The team didn't do that well, but those two guys together, I wanted to see them. That was the team I was most excited to watch. And any of you who remember watching those two guys play, and Wes, you can tell me what you think. Both of those guys were dogs. Ron Artest and Steven Jackson. I mean, y'all remember what happened in Detroit when they ran
that fight? Did you see that fight? That's two dogs right there.
Yeah, those guys are done. And Ben Wallace is a dog too. Speaking of that whole situation. But Steven Jackson said after the game, he said when they would play against the Lakers, him and Ron Artest would argue about who's going to guard Kobe. He's like, yo, I'm guarding Kobe. No, I'm guarding Kobe. Because their whole thing was, yo, who's the best player on that team? I'm guarding that dude. And Steven Jackson, and this is a funny thing, I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but Steven Jackson was on the Spurs at the end of his career. He had played for them and won a championship, and then he moved around the league, and he ended up back on the Spurs. I believe it was in 2013 or 14. And he was coming off the bench at the time. And the starters on the wings at that time were Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio. And Steven Jackson, every day in practice, he's thinking, all right, I got to earn some playing time, so I'm going to kick these guys' ass in practice every day. So they be in practice, and Steven Jackson is just going so hard at Kawhi and Danny Green. They're younger guys at this time, but he's going so hard at them that the coach, Greg Popovich, I don't know if I ever heard this much from a coach. he told Steven Jackson he was playing too hard. He said, yo, you going too hard in practice. You got to let up. You got to stop going so hard at these guys in practice. And Steven Jackson says, well, listen, coach, I'm not playing as much as I want to play. So I figure my way of earning playing time is to show you that I'm better than these guys, which I can only do through practice. And the coach, Greg Popovich, says to Steven Jackson, listen, these guys are better than you, and that's why they're playing more than you. Steven Jackson said, no, coach, they're not better than me. Don't you see what's happening in practice every day? And Greg Popovich says, look, they're younger than you. They're the future. We're building around them. You just need to admit that they're better than you because this is what it's going to be, Steven. And Steven Jackson refused to admit that these two guys were better than him, Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. He refused. And they cut him. They released him. He got released off the team because he would not admit to the coach that these two other guys were better than him. That's the mentality of being a dog. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly what everybody out here has to go do. I mean, he lost his contract. He got another one. But the point that I'm making is he wasn't admitting that anybody was better than him. And he said, look, I'm going to take every opportunity to prove that I'm worth what I believe that I'm worth. And they had to get rid of him in order to take that element out of it. But that's what I mean when I say being a dog. Yeah. And I want to move on to the point, because I told everyone, we told y'all that this whole episode is about being a dog. When it comes to finding and creating dogs, okay, who are some other people, Wes, that you've played with or against? And what was it about them, with or against, that you would describe as a dog? Like people that you know personally or dealt with personally, whether, again, as an opponent or a teammate, they were a dog. And what was it about them that would lead you to giving them that title?
One of my best friends, my workout partner, Marcellus Morgan. Marcel was a dog.
Yes, he was.
I think we already talked about him a little bit, but when we came and played when I was my wedding weekend, Sellers was probably like 30 pounds. What did you say, Dre? Above where he played at when he was in college.
30 pounds above playing weight, all in muscle.
But But the thing about Sellers is just his mentality. You saw that day, he always thought he was the best player on the floor. And even though he hadn't played basketball in years, he stepped out there and he believed it. So the power of the mind. And then me working out with him every day kind of gave me that same thing, like just the mentality of bringing it every day. Now, Sellers did have a couple of things. He had a 40-inch vertical, and he was really, really strong. But the thing that made him a dog was just his mentality. Like, you knew you had to raise your level to even be in the same gym as that dude. Like, you had to bring it on another level, or he was going to kick your ass, and it wasn't even going to be close. You had to compete at your highest level for you to have a chance. Another person that sticks out to me was one of my college teammates when I was sitting out at Livingstone, Jerome LaGrange. He passed away from cancer, but the thing that stuck out for me with Rome is we played pickup like that first day, and he was covered with tattoos, had a mean look, but that wasn't the shit that made him a dog. We played pickup. We played probably like 5 or 6. Everybody wanted to go. And like, we didn't have 24-hour access like our student athletes. So like, I had to put a little rock in the back door of the gym, because I was coming back that night to get more work in. So I come back that night probably like 9 to 10 o'clock, and he's in there. And I'm like, and it's one of those things like, what's understood ain't got to be explained. Me and him on the same level. So right then and there, I started rebounding for him, and then he started rebounding for me, and then we were just incredibly competitive with each other. Like, we would race, like, if we would one of the things we would do is, like, we work out together. Be like, all right, well, let's go at noon. So if he showed up at noon, I was in there at like 10:45. He come in at noon, I have a full sweat. We was always competitive with each other like that. But him, and then I say Dre, I think you gotta look, if you really want to peak out your highest level, you gotta find people around you that are dogs, people that are going to hold you accountable even on the days that you don't want to. So I'd highlight Dre too, because he was that person for me. Like Al Tuna, I knew if one person was going to go to the gym, I know it would be Dre. Like my boy B's 300 now. B would work out when we told him to, or we dragged his ass out of the apartment. That's the extent that he would work out. But I know that if I wanted to get one in, it would be me and Dre. Me and Dre could go in the gym and play one for how long? Hours?
All day.
All day. Yeah. And like, I think those are the qualities, and the 3 people that I mentioned is like we could go in the gym and just play ones all day and it'd be competitive because nobody would want to lose. We foul each other hard. We play hard against each other. I would compete against these guys like I didn't know them and I didn't love them. And I think that's the thing that kind of separates people that I classify as dogs. Like, you said it, Altoona, like, yo, shit, I thought these dudes were boys. They compete against that, like each other. Like, what the hell are they going to do to me? And, like, that's kind of how I developed the people that I would highlight as the people that I thought dogs. And there's a couple other ones that come to mind, but I think those probably the three that stuck out to me, Dre.
And you can tell us another one if you got another one that you got that's fresh in your mind.
Man, I can't remember this guy's name.
We'll come back.
He played at Frostburg State. Dark skinned dude, about 6'2".
I'm not sure I played against him. Was he athletic? Athletic guy?
He was athletic, but I only played against him twice. He was a dog.
I think that was it. Okay.
He had bad intentions for me. And I only played against him twice. And if I only play against you twice and I realize you're a dog, that means you're the filthiest, nastiest, one of the filthiest, nastiest dogs out there. But he made it tough on me. He talked shit to me. He made my night in Altoona and my night in Frostburg, Maryland really, really tough. He's a dog. I don't know his name, but he's somewhere being a dog with somebody today. I know that much.
Who are some guys that everybody who's watching, basketball fans, we can go back and forth to talk about this, that you would classify as a dog who play ball to death, like in the NBA?
Pat Beverly, a damn dog now.
All right, Pat Beverly. So he's a point guard, LA Clippers. What is it about Pat Beverly that you would describe him as a dog? If you're trying to teach somebody what a dog is, what is it about Pat that you would call him a dog?
Once again, I think it just goes back to mentality. If you go on YouTube right now, put in him and Drew Holiday. When he stripped the ball from Drew Holiday like 4 different times in a matter of 2 minutes, clapping in his face. Drew Holiday is an all-star level player, but he didn't give that dude an inch. He didn't give him an inch of space or anything. Pat Beverly is a dog. PJ Tucker is a dog. PJ Tucker, 6'5", led the Big 12 in rebounding at Texas at like 6'5". He's a dog. Chris Paul is a dog. Chris Paul, and I think a lot of the times when you see guys that are a little bit like undersized, like I think in the episode yesterday you mentioned like in the apology, like I'm not undersized. Well, some guys that are undersized, they have that little tad bit of like a little chip on their shoulder. Chris Paul is a dog. Watch any guard that's like probably like 6'4", 6'5", try to post Chris Paul up this upcoming NBA season and watch what happens. He's a dog, now. So it's that mentality like when you're a little bit undersized or something like that, I think that kind of draws it out of you. But even like I watched like Kevin Durant try to post him up. Kevin Durant couldn't get inside the 3-point line. Chris Paul had like form like on him. He is a dog. There's a couple more that's slipping out, but like those three come to mind off the bat. What about you?
While you think of a person that I think when me and you had our conversation, we were talking about this, is a guy we didn't mention, is really obvious, Russell Westbrook.
Oh, man.
Russell Westbrook is a guy we call dogs. And the thing about Russell, as long as he's been in the league, the number one thing I heard somebody say, I think it was David Thorpe that said it, Russell Westbrook takes every matchup personal. Every game, he takes it personal. And you can tell. You don't have to talk to him. You don't have to say it. It's obvious that he takes it personal, that he wants to outplay, first of all, his matchup. But nowadays, now that they've let him loose without KD, he wants to outplay the whole gym. Everybody in the gym he wants to outplay. He takes it personal. And he brings the intensity. He's the guy who, if it's going to get intense in the gym, he's going to be the one that starts that intensity. I mean, Kobe Bryant, he don't play anymore, but he was another guy. I don't know if you saw that video during Kobe's last couple of years, one day in practice, where he's just talking all kinds of shit to his teammates. The general manager of the Lakers, Mitch Kupchak, was in the gym. He was talking shit to the GM, like, yo, these the guys you got? These the guys you signed? These guys ain't doing nothing for me. Like, these are the type of guys that are adults. Dwayne Wade,
adult.
Yeah, he was playing, and I remember watching games because I live in Miami, so I would see the Heat games. Dwayne Wade would be cussing his teammates out for not boxing out. He'd be screaming at guys. When Mike Beasley was on the team, he'd be hitting them in the chest like, yo, we need you to do something. Dwayne Wade was a dog. Those couple of years before LeBron got there, They made the playoffs. How? They didn't have that much talent besides him.
Oh.
He carried that team. He was carrying that team every single year. He's another guy who's a dog. There's another one you can think of? Kevin Garnett is another guy I think of. He was, absolute.
Michael Jordan was a dog.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan was a dog. Kobe Bryant was a dog. And that's kind of like my mentality. It started with Mike, but then it kind of trickled to like Kobe. Like anytime those guys put out like any content, any video, like I watched it like over and over and over and over. I couldn't tell you how many times. Like even Kobe has an interview. It's like on NBA TV. I probably watched that like hundreds of times. Like he talks about. I think in the video you talking about like Sasa Vujic, whatever the heck. He was like guarding Kobe, and Kobe was like elbowed him in the stomach like hard, like, yo, don't touch me the rest of the scrimmage. You know what I'm saying? But like stuff like that gets me, because like that's how I was. That's how I wanted to compete. But I wanted people around me to compete like that too. And that's, I think, that's why we talked about that foreign thing at Altoona. Like a lot of people didn't really compete like at that level. Russell Westbrook's a dog. I'm trying to think of anybody else that that there will be no conversation that this person is a dog. I'm trying to think any more.
Or Kevin Garnett was a guy who, he epitomized it. He brought it to his whole team. So when he got on the team, like when he was in Minnesota, the thing is, when you bring a dog into the room in an organization, if nobody else really has any of that in them, he's still going to be good enough to make them, they'll be successful, but they're not going to be that great if nobody else has enough of it in them. But if you put them around some people who got even a little bit, then they're going to be amazing. So when he was in Minnesota, they made the playoffs, but they weren't beating anybody. But then when he went to Boston, you got Paul Pierce, you got Rondo, you got a guy like Kendrick Perkins. I would even say a guy like Kendrick Perkins. He wasn't that talented, but the dude competed. And I remember they played the Lakers, and I got so mad at Pau Gasol because Pau Gasol couldn't do nothing against Kendrick Perkins that year that Boston beat him in the finals. Because Kendrick Perkins was taking it personal. Like, I'm going to shut this dude down. That's the only thing I'm going to do. I ain't scoring no points. I ain't going to grab no rebounds. I'm going to just stop Pau Gasol. And that's what he did it. And he did it. And Kevin Garnett is the kind of guy who will bring that out of you. You got a little bit of it in you, he's going to bring it out of you like a magnet. He's just going to draw it out. So he's another guy that I thought of immediately. During his playing days, even Charles Barkley. I don't think people really remember Barkley, but when he played, I remember Chris Webber dunked on Barkley during the season. He made a commercial about it. I asked him about dunking on Charles Barkley. They played him in the playoffs that year. Barkley gave Chris Webber 54 points and swept them in the playoffs. Gary Payton, another dude.
Gary Payton.
Yeah, in his playing days. Some of y'all might not know these players. These are older guys.
Jerry Stackhouse was a dog.
Jerry Stackhouse, Carolina guy. There's a lot of guys. And the things that, for those of you players out there who want to become one, let's talk about, Wes, what are the elements that you would look for in a player that says this guy is what are the elements that a player who's listening to this right now and they want to become that guy or that girl, what do they need to do? What are some things they need to exhibit and exemplify when they get out there on the court?
I think, number one, it just starts with a mentality of being that kind of person. That person that's like unrelenting. That person that's not going to give an inch. And I think it starts with, it starts with mentality, but I think it starts by yourself and how you approach your work and how you approach everything that has to do with yourself first. Because then by the time you get around other people, like if I'm going to the gym and I hold myself accountable to make, say, 400 shots. I know my baseline is 400 shots that I have to make. Like, that's my baseline. And for me, going forward, I got to know I can do that by myself every day. So by the time that I'm around somebody else, like, I know where my baseline is at. So I think the first thing is it starts with kind of like with your mentality, how you're going to be. And then the second thing is I think you got to make a decision. I think a decision has to be made that you want to do this because it sounds pretty. It sounds pretty when you're talking about it right now. It sounds motivational when we're talking about it right now, but is it going to be motivational when the person that you're supposed to go out that night with is the person that's loafing? That's the person that missed the line that day at practice, and now you got to run another 22. That's the person that just missed the box out that caused your team to lose, and now you got to run another 22. And now it's not the person that you hate. It's the person that you really, really like. And what are you going to do now? Because it sounds good, but then it's the mentality and the choice of actually, I'm going to commit to doing this no matter. And when you're committing to doing this, you probably got to think about it like the tough way. You might lose a relationship, like you said in the podcast, like you might lose one. It might be the person that you're living with right now. It might be your roommate. That's the person that's constantly out there effing up. Do you have the courage and the balls, and after you make the decision, to actually follow through with some action on that to make that person feel uncomfortable in the moment? Like I say, Kobe Bryant, when I'm listening to his things, like, are you comfortable with having that conversation with somebody that's got something in between their teeth? Are you cool with having that moment of uncomfortability? Like, listen, you have something in your teeth right now. Are you cool with that? And after that, I think after that decision and choice, you got to follow through with some action.
Do you think it can be taught? Can somebody be taught to be a dog, or do they just have to have the elements already?
I think you got to have a baseline for it already, Dre. I don't think somebody who just like sitting here, I don't think you got to have something in you already that can be drawn out. Like you just said, KD, if he had it in you, like he could draw it out. I think you got to have something in you already that says that or would speak to that. And if you don't have it in you, it's going to be tough.
How many dogs do you need on one basketball team? So let's say a roster is 12 people. How many dogs do you need on a team to make that team successful? Is it one? You need 5? You need all 12? Like, how many do you think you need?
I think probably 2. I think you need an alpha and a beta. I think you need 2 of them.
Alpha and a beta. I like that. So,
yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
I think you probably got to have 2 because it can't. I think any kind of leadership team that has more, when you start talking about more people, it can't just be have one person holding somebody accountable, because eventually they're going to think that somebody's picking on them or something else like that. But if you got another person come behind like, nah, that's bullshit, or like, nah, that's not the way we do it around here, or like, nah, that was your box out and you missed it and he got a dunk, and now that was the 2 points that we needed to close the half, and it's coming from, hopefully it's coming from more, but it's got to be coming a constant message from at least 2 people. So if I put together my ideal team, I want 2 people like that on my team and around me. I think that was probably it.
Okay. Now I want to talk some college basketball stuff, Wes.
Okay.
Before we wrap up, who knows? It might not even be a wrap up, but I want to, on this dog thing, is one last quote that I thought of. Actually, I was running today, and those of y'all who listen, y'all know I'm about to run this marathon again in January. But Michael Jordan said in one of his books, I don't think I ever even put this quote out there, but he said when he was playing with Scottie Pippen that he taught Scottie how to become he called him a predator. Same thing we're talking about being a dog. A predator was the phrase that he used. And he said Scottie learned to become one over the years working with me, because I saw he had some potential to be one. And he said the difference between, but this is what Mike said, the difference between me and Scottie is that Scottie was a predator as long as he knew he had a pack of wolves behind him. And the same with me, and this is Michael Jordan talking, he said, I'm a predator even when I don't have any wolves with me. Right. And the thing about being that dog, being that predator, same thing is, are you willing to be that person when you don't have anything backing you up and there's nothing behind you and you're on the road? You have a quote unquote a road game. And the reason that I brought that up is because it's like what we talked about, playing in those pickup games and things like that. When we went up to State College, I mean, like I said, those dudes came in there to play against us. They was like 6, 7 deep. We played at St. Francis. Their whole roster was in there, 12 guys in there. We played against the Mount. They had their starting 5 in there. We would go play anywhere in Altoona. Dudes would have their little group of people that came in, and a lot of times it would just be me and you, or me, you, and B. 2 or 3 of us most of the time playing. Like, how much support do you had to have behind you? And this is the question I'm asking everyone listening. How much support do you had to have behind you to still have that mentality? Because a lot of people got that mentality when they know they got backup. You know, they know they got something behind them that just in case it doesn't work, they got a plan B, right? But how much of that mentality can you bring when you don't have a plan B, when you don't have a backup, when you know there's nothing you can fall back on, no excuses that you can make? What are you going to do in that situation? And Wes, if you got anything to add on to that, you can right there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some college hoops.
Nah, that's a good one right there. I think you hit them all right there. That's a good one.
So if a player, talking about college ball, if a basketball player right now, they're in high school, or maybe they finished and they want to go play in college, and they're trying to decide, should I go play D1 or they want to walk on, right? So the players ask me this, like, should I go to enroll in a D1 school, a D2, a D3, an NIA, a JUCO? How does a player decide where they should go? You know, how do they even figure that out? It's like hundreds of colleges out there.
I think it starts with who recruits you. Like a lot of the times, like with the level that you get recruited at, is going to be relative to where you can play and be successful. So like if you got a lot of Division II schools hitting you up, and maybe there's one Division I, but there's 10 Division IIs, there's a good chance that you have a chance to be a successful player at D2. And that goes for like all levels. Like NAI, there's a lot of top level NAI programs out there. And a lot of times NAI, they go on a transfer route. Like people that are transferring a lot of times end up at IA. And a lot of times with junior colleges, people go to junior college for two reasons. Number one, your grades are not high enough to get into places. And number two, if you don't feel like you've gotten the exposure that you need, you can go to a junior college for a year and try to go to a 4-year school with 3 years to play. But I say the level that's showing you the most love is probably the one you can be successful at. And I tell people like all the time, basketball, if there's so much parity in basketball right now that if you go where you are loved, you go where you go get recruited at, if you can play, they'll find you. There was a number of NBA scouts, like I coached basketball at the mid-major level. There's a number of NBA scouts that they hit me up probably like 3-4 times a year asking about guys in our league, guys on our team, guys that I know. So I think sometimes people have a Division I or nothing mentality. I don't think that's, completely correct. I think you got to go where you can have a good career and a good college experience. And like, I know a lot of really good Division II coaches and a lot of really good Division II players. And a lot of those guys, like you want to go to a winning program. So like when you talk about your perspective, like at the next level, winning matters. So like if you're a guy that has aspirations to continue to play after college, they're going to look at your record. They're going to look to see if you're a winning basketball player. So Dre, I think you can attest, like when you get over there across the water, NBA, D League, G League, whatever, if you ain't winning, you coming home. I'm gonna just go ahead and keep it above with you. Like if you lose 2 games in a row, you probably coming back home. So I think to avoid that, you got to go to the level that's probably showing you the most love, and that's probably where you can go have a successful career.
Yeah, and then I mean overseas, I've seen players averaging 30 and get fired
coming home.
Their job, yeah, because the team wasn't winning. Or because they, as the American, they weren't doing enough to make the local guys get better. They weren't trying to help them get better enough, or they didn't have enough rapport with the young guys on the team, and they would get fired. So people think it's just about how many points you got or your stats or did you play well. But if you're not helping the team in general, or you don't have the right attitude, or the team's not winning, those are all reasons that you can lose your job in the pros. Those of you who have those pro aspirations.
Let me add one. If you're even thinking about trying to go overseas and be a professional, you better be a dog. I'm gonna tell you this.
Guaranteed.
They don't, because when you get to that team, because like I played in Germany, so when I got there, the German point guard wasn't happy. He ain't like me. Like a lot of the times, it's disrespectful for them to have to bring Americans over there. The other players, they think it's disrespectful. So if you got those kind of aspirations, you better go listen to that podcast right now and figure out how you're going to start being a dog, because you're going to need it.
Absolutely. And when you're playing basketball overseas, American players, listen, your whole life is a road game. Everything you do is a road game. You're not at home. You're not from that country. You might not speak the language. They probably talking shit about you in the native language right in front of you. Is people who don't like you just because of the fact that you're over there playing on their team. They know that you're making more money than them. They know you're getting the opportunity. They know you're supposed to be better than them. The whole situation is a road game. Even practice is a road game.
Practice. My coach didn't even like me because I was married. My coach didn't even like me. Yo, I was a point guard trying to develop a relationship with this dude. He didn't even like me for real. So like, yeah, you better be a dog.
Exactly. And many times overseas, the team management makes a decision on who to hire. Right. And they don't even consult the coach. When I signed in Montenegro, I signed in Montenegro, the coach didn't even know that they had signed me until I walked in the gym. He was like, "Who's this?" the whole situation's a road game. So those of y'all, and I've said this many times, like when you want to become a professional at what you do, it's not going to be all set up for you to win. Like school is the last time in life where the situation is custom made for you to be successful. After that, you're going to have to make it the way that you wanted to make it. And you got to have a game to do that. Number one, you got to have the skill to get it done. And number two, you got to have the mentality, because people ain't going to just move out the way and let you do it. You're going to have to move people out of the way. You're going to counter resistance. And you got to be ready to deal with that resistance mentally. Yes, you got to have the skill, but you got to have it mentally, or they're just going to run your ass out of there, guaranteed.
Fast, quick, and in a hurry.
And so if a player, like you mentioned, that if a player, let's say they got like all these calls from D2 schools, they only have one D1 offer, I'm thinking how I would be thinking. All right. Now, how I think a lot of players will be thinking is, all right, well, if I got one D1 offer, if I got one D1 that called me, then that means that I'm capable, right? I got the ability. So how do you talk sense into a player who has 10 D2 schools calling them and just one D1 school calling them, and they're insisting that D1 is their destination? Because, like you said, a lot of players have that D1 or nothing mentality. How do you make a player okay with only, quote unquote, going D2?
I mean, one of the things I like to highlight with people is, like, you got to go where you fit. And something that's really, really evident is last year, Division I think there was almost like 800 guys that transferred. And I think there's a lot of reasons. Some of those reasons is guys weren't Division I players. And when you look at the numbers, a lot of the times, like when people are leaving Division I versus the scholarships that are left over, when people start transferring, it becomes a tricky game. There's not enough slots for all the people trying to transfer. And I think that's why people are on that transfer list, because you don't go to the level that you can be successful at. And a lot of those times, like when a person, say somebody goes to a Division I because they want to prove people wrong, and I understand that. But then when you go up there and now you're not able to play, now you're going back to a Division II, when if you would have started at Division II, you would have had almost like a seamless transition there already. But, a lot of people have those dreams and aspirations, and I get it. I understand as a competitor, you want to play at the highest level, but sometimes you got to take a step back and maybe make a decision that's going to help yourself, 4 or 5 years from now.
So if a player if I get questions sometimes from players who are older guys, quote unquote older, young, but still older for basketball. Let's say they're 23, 27, 31. They feel like they can still play. Maybe they had some family situation. They had kids. Maybe they had to drop out of school to help their parents out. Maybe they were in the military and they want to go back to school and play. Are coaches open to those type of players? And if so, is it any different for a player that's in that situation as compared to a 18-year-old kid who just graduated high school?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to find, for somebody in that situation, you're going to have to find the right fit of a program. And for me, that would mean doing some due diligence and research on programs that have had guys like that come in. Because the reality situation, it's probably not going to happen at Division I or Division II. So when you start looking at those levels, you have to, because for us, if we're looking at a guy 24 versus 18, 100% we're taking a guy that's 18 because he's got much more upside and everything else like that. So you got to find, if you're in that kind of, because I hear from people, like sometimes guys go on missions and come back, but you got to find schools that are up to that and coaches like that. When I talked about Marcellus being an All-American, Marcellus went to college a little bit older. He went out of school. He had torn his ACL, and then he wanted to be at home for a little bit. So I think he was at home for like 3 or 4 years before he started school. We were both getting recruited by Hampton Sydney, and he ended up going there as a freshman, but he went there as an older guy. So you got to find, and they had a couple guys like that in that program. So you got to find probably like a fit of people who have been dealt with in similar situations. But it's not foreign to that for a person like that. That I'm like, they're not going to say like you can't play college ball because you are. You just got to find the right fit of it.
So where does that player even begin? I mean, with so many colleges out there, and I asked you a similar question last time, and I still get these questions from players every day. where does a player begin? I mean, there's thousands of colleges out there, and not only do they got to pick one, they also got to pick one where they can actually get on the basketball team. And they can't always have a conversation with the coach that guarantees them anything. How does the player, I mean, how do you even navigate this situation? Like, what would you tell somebody?
I mean, I would do it the same way that I kind of got my first contract signed. Like, I would, if I'm looking at NAIA, I would go to the NAIA website and I would get every school on their website and I would just start doing research on that school, on those programs, and kind of see where I fit. I would probably try to pick out, 100 a day. And out of that 100, you're going to find 5 or 10 like, oh, okay, this guy, this one. But you got to be willing to put in the work. Like, nothing, if you're a little bit older and trying to find a school, like, nothing's going to fall in your lap. You ain't going to get a letter out of the damn blue that they want you to come. Like, you're going to have to go aggressively find and search out and seek an opportunity if you want to make one happen.
And that statement that you made right there is the key thing. Nothing's going to fall in your lap.
Right.
For everybody out there. This is not just a sports conversation that we have in here. You got to go out there and you got to beat the pavement up and make it happen. Make that opportunity happen for you if that's what you really want. Now, being at a D1 school, I mean, these players are, as they call them, student athletes. The student part does matter because if you don't handle that, you can't play. Do academics matter in recruiting? When you're recruiting players, do you even look at their academics? And how do you even decide, like, is there a cutoff point when you're looking at academics where you say, okay, even though this player's good, because of this, academically, this is a no-go? Like, how do you even figure that out? Or it doesn't matter at all?
No, academics are a huge part of what we do. Like, if I see somebody that I like, Dre, the first thing that I would do when I get the coach on the phone is get their transcript. And if their transcript doesn't look good, I probably won't recruit them. And when I talk about recruitable student athletes, like, you're talking about, you can go to the NCAA website and you can find the baseline of, like, what you need core GPA wise from your freshman, sophomore, junior year. And if they're not on pace for that, like, I won't even recruit them. So academics do mean it. And then the second part about it, like, when you're talking about somebody that you're going to recruit and bring here, like, my job is hard. There's not enough hours in the day. So I'm not going to be inclined to bring anybody here that I don't feel like can be academically successful. Well, if I feel like, look at your transcript and I feel like you can't do the work, then we're not going to recruit you. And like I said, we're not like an Ivy League school, but our stuff is kind of stringent, but like, it's a huge part of it, like academics. And to me, when I get a transcript, it can even tell me a little bit about the student athlete that I'm recruiting. Like, if I get a transcript and I see 2.0, I think lazy. C's are lazy. At this day and age, it just doesn't happen. So that tells me they're not committed to doing the work and anything else like that. And I'm probably just going to move on to the next one.
So even if that player has the talent and they could perform on the court, you don't even pursue them or go any further if their academics aren't up to par.
Nope.
All right, I want to let that sink in for the players who are listening to this right now. I know a lot of players are looking for that. When it comes to that, I know that the NCAA, because I remember when I got to Penn State Altoona, my coach was a guy named Kenny Macklin. He didn't coach you, but you know Kenny Macklin. And one of the things that he told me was that the NCAA has their own baseline requirements. Like you just said, you got to have a minimum this to play this sport. But sometimes coaches implement their own requirements that are above and beyond what the NCAA says. So one of the things that Kenny Macklin told me was, the baseline for the NCAA is like a 1.8, but for me, you got to have like a 2.2 or something like that. Do y'all do anything like that, or sometimes the coaches do it themselves, sometimes the school itself has their own requirements. So do y'all do anything like that? And do you, like, how much attention do you pay to that stuff before, during, and after you have a player on the roster?
No, it's huge. And for us, it's at the end of every year. You have to have a certain GPA and a certain amount of credit, like towards your degree, as your freshman, sophomore, and junior year. So I'm unsure what ours is, but we try to keep our guys even higher than that, like just to the minimum, because they want to make sure that you're progressing towards your degree, not getting too far behind. But I mean, academically, it's huge. Like, we have, I would say our cutting point is like how we do study hall. So like how we do study hall is a little bit unique because we have some guys that have to get 6 hours, and then we have some guys that get none. So your study hall is determined on your GPA, and like you determine your study hall, Dre. So like if you come here as a junior college transfer and just say you got, at the end of the first semester, you got a 3.0 and you're fine, boom, you're out of study hall. But then if you come back that next semester and you got a 2.0, then boom, you back in study hall. So the guys that hover like above 3.0 and kind of prove that they can do their work and not have to be so closely monitored, we kind of let those guys go. But the guys that prove they need extra help, they got to get in there. They got to have an academic coach. They got to get 6 hours in study hall, and they got a lot more requirements. So it's based on, we kind of base our academic program. We let you decide it.
I like that. I like the way you worded that, is that the player decides basically by their performance what you make them do. So when you say study hall, can you explain to people who don't know what that means or how that works, what exactly that is?
So study hall is it's probably like an hour or two that's based around just your academics, where you would go to a room with the coach or maybe with a tutor or anybody else like that. And for that hour and a half, 2 hour block, you're strictly focused like on your academics. And that can be readings, that can be tutoring, that can be writing a paper. 4 days a week, you're coming over, you're sitting down, and you're just focused just on that. So a lot of people, when they come here, they're like, Coach, I'm going to get out of study hall. I don't want to go to study hall. But and then they be in study hall till they seniors. But it's based on you. So it's you essentially getting your work done in that time. And then when those guys get 3.0s, that's proving us that you don't need us to time manage your studying. So you don't need that 2 hour block. And that's essentially what we're doing. We're making sure that you're studying for these 2 hours. And then when you get above 3.0, you're proving that you don't need that. But we let our guys decide how much study hall time they have.
Okay, well, man, I wish they had study hall when we were in college. I probably would have did better academically if somebody was forcing me to do the work. So study hall, so that's like a resource that at your level of school, a player will get just to make sure that they stay on track, doing what they had to do academically. Yeah,
we have two full-time academic people, so we usually have our study hall over there with them. All our guys are provided with laptops through our university, so they would take their laptop, whatever course materials they have, and they would meet over there with our academic people, and then they kind of gauge them. They have them they would give them like a sheet of paper like this that would have all their assignments and what timetable they need to finish. So like if they had a test on like a Tuesday, let's say a test on Thursday, we know that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, at least an hour that needs to be devoted towards your math test and getting ready for that. And we kind of structure it in that way. So study hall is one of those things, guys like it or they don't like it, but like you have the chance to get out of it. But I think that freedom is big.
Yeah, that's definitely. That's definitely a big thing. Wes, have you ever had players? Because I get players asking me who are from outside the United States, some European country, Asia, Africa, even. And they say, well, Dre, I want to play basketball at the highest level. I want to play in the NBA or whatever, but they figure that college is the first step. And they want to play in the NCAA. So they have the same challenge that an American player has, but at the same time, they're not American. So they might not have the same internet access or be able to make phone calls the same way. Have you ever had a player who's international reach out to you? And how do you evaluate those players, and what can they do? And it's a 3-part question. What can a player outside of USA do to get your attention that you would take them, seriously?
No, I think they would do the same thing the student athletes in the States would. They would put together their academic transcript that they can send from the work they've done, and they also put together like a video link. It's becoming almost second nature from people from Europe that are coming over here to play in high school and in prep school and in college. It's almost like second nature. Actually, some of the best players in our league, like the player of the year in our league last year was from Australia. And there have been a number of players in our league that have come from overseas that have been wildly successful. So it's something that we look at even more so now. So like if I get a film link to my email from somebody and their transcript work looks good, I will take a look at it. And now even more so, there are colleges that are going overseas to recruit. I want to say like Dre, FIBA, 18 and under, 16 and under, college coaches were at that. Like I know for sure I was texting my man Ben, he's coaches at Xavier, he was over there. My homeboy Kevin Kruger, the coach at Oklahoma, he was over there to watch the 16s and the 18s in other countries. So what's happening is almost second nature. So I would tell you guys that, once again, nothing's going to fall in your lap. So start getting yourself out there, getting your name out there. with your highlight links and stuff like that. And a couple of my guys are in prep school that are coaching are saying more guys are coming over here. We actually had a kid come from Serbia over to the United States, and he just did like a 2-week tour. He set up a 2-week tour. He emailed me and said, I was going to be in, Coach, I'm going to be in San Diego. I'm coming up to try out for this. I think he went to try out like Mesa Community College. I'm going to be there 2 hours from your campus. Like, is it possible for me to just play with your guys? I was like, sure. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's becoming more and more common that people from overseas are coming over here and they're proving that they can play.
So it's taking the initiative. It's taking the initiative, reaching out and asking the questions. And, man, it was something that you said there that it just flipped my mind what you were saying. But with the players who are coming over from, man, it flipped my mind what I was going to ask you. I can't start talking about it and I forgot it. But the players who are coming over from Europe, or they want to come over for Europe. Oh, this is the thing. The transcript. Because, listen, you go on YouTube or Instagram these days, I think every player pretty much understands making a highlight video. We don't have to explain that. Everybody knows how to do that. Yeah. But the academic transcript. A lot of players, very few players ever ask me anything about that. Players ask me, should I make a highlight video? Can it be a workout? Can it be some drill? Can it be a game? Nobody asked me about the academic transcript, but this is the NCAA, and no matter what anybody's opinion is of the NCAA structure, you do have to have your academics in order to play. That's a fact. That's just the truth of the situation. How does a player go about getting their transcript? Who do they need to talk to? Like, is there a certain point person that is in common at any school that they need to talk to? And what exactly would they need to send you that shows they have what they need academically?
They would just need to send an unofficial transcript. You can get your unofficial transcript from just your admissions counselor. I would advise everybody that's like if you're in high school, like starting in ninth grade, you should get with your admissions counselor and you should start during your coursework to understand what's going to be required if you want to play college basketball. Because like people get behind, I see so many transcripts where people get behind. Like if you have a bad freshman year, it's going to be hard to recover. So I would advise you getting with your high school counselor right now and start trying to build a schedule that's going to look like something that's going to help you play in college, because they're going to have to put you in a certain number of core classes, and it's not just going to be basketball, volleyball class. It's going to be like starting with geometry and your algebra 2s and getting all your stuff. So by the time like a college coach looks at your thing as a junior, they're not just looking at it just like, okay, never mind, that person has to go to junior college. So like I'd advise them, and they can sit down with you and they can tell you X, Y, Z, especially what you need that's going to help you be successful. And then when you're sending to college coaches, all they need is just the unofficial transcript to kind of get a look at where you're at academically.
And Wes, there's something that I didn't mention when we were going to talk about this. I want to compliment you on that. Our last 2 years of college, you were really on it academically. Because I remember when you first got there, you were going to play immediately, but then you found out that because of some discrepancies or stuff that you hadn't done quite yet, different schools have different requirements. And a lot of players don't understand. And when you transfer from school A to school B might have a different set of requirements. So even though you were good at school A, you're not good at school B. So now you got to do all this other stuff to catch up. And you might have to do extra time just because you went to a different school. But you figured it out. Like, you got on top of that. And I've seen a lot of athletes who, when they have a situation like yours where they they couldn't play when they first got there, but they thought they would be able to, they pretty much give up.
Right.
And if you're at a D1 school in that situation, you got tutors, you have study halls, you got people on top of you, right? You got people whose only job it is, their full-time job is to make sure you do it and get on track so you can play because you're the star that got recruited. But you at a D3 school. There was nobody whose full-time job it was. Like, if you didn't do nothing, pretty much nobody would have cared except you. But you got dedicated, and listen, everybody listening to this, Wes is more dedicated to his academics than me. Those 2 years that we were at Penn State, I was tuning it together. Now we had different situations because I was in the Penn State system the whole time.
Yeah.
So you came from outside of the system, and I know Penn State's not the hardest school, but it's also not the easiest academically. And you really got focused. And I remember you mentioned, what was the guy's name, the compliance officer that you used to deal with?
The one that gave me my waiver?
Yeah.
Dr. Wright.
Dr. Wright. I didn't even know who Dr. Wright was. I never knew who he looked like. I didn't know his name. I know nothing about this dude, but I came to quote unquote know him because Wes would always mention this dude. Because you would be in his office, right? You'd be in his face, like, yo, like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I got going on. But I want you to speak to that, like how you, because like you said, you came and you found out that you wouldn't be able to play immediately. What was your mentality there, and what did you do? What specifically did you have to go through academically to get to where you could play, and why did you do it? Why don't you just leave?
I mean, at that point I did what I had to do, and the first thing I did is I came up with an academic plan because they hadn't seen anything like mine. Like I was almost like Dre 40 credits short of being eligible. So 40 credits essentially is like a whole year of academic work that I was like behind.
A year and a half.
Yeah, like that I was behind, and that was essentially the reason I put everything behind it, because like this is my last college year, because you get 5 years to play for. So like this is my last year, so I had to do everything. So essentially, they had never seen anything like it, and they essentially put me on a gauntlet that they thought that nobody could do. Like that second semester, I took 18 credits, which was the max that Penn State allows, and then if you remember, like I stayed for both summers. I stayed for both summers, and I did like I think it was called like an intercessory class. Like there was like a full week class at the end of the first one that I got 3 credits for. So I did 18, I did 21, in the summer I did 8. So in the summer 8, that's like you in class all day. I was in class from like 8 to 6 every day, that second one. And then I got all those credits, and I think I ended up with I want to say I had like 8 left. So what they did for me in the fall is they put me in another 18 in the fall. So I had to get at least a 2.5 was the agreement and all those credits. And they told me if I was good in the fall and I had a 2.5, then he would give me because I was still behind. Because when I left Altoona, and started playing professionally, I had to come back to get my degree. So they made an agreement with me that if I had a 2.5 through whatever date it was to start playing in those 18 credits, that they would sign a waiver for me that I could play. And I did it. I was able to accomplish it. But like, I had never done academic work like that before. It was like, all I did was school and basketball. It was like boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you did. I mean, when I was C-West, if we wasn't on the court playing, or we wasn't at no sheet, getting ourselves something. Shout out to Sheets. They need to build some Sheets in Miami. They got Sheets in Arizona? What?
Nah, they don't got Sheets out here.
Yeah, they need to build some Sheets everywhere else in the country. Shout out to Sheets. If you weren't at Sheets or playing basketball, Wes was in the house with those books. He would always. And I never asked him about the books because I didn't want to talk about school. But you were always in those books. But I didn't know it was like that. And this is my first time even knowing that. You said you took 18 credits, then 21, then 18 again.
Yes,
that's crazy.
That's what I mean. That's what I. Like when I came, like I was good academically, and then when they put me into my major, like all those things fell off. Like the stuff that I took, like I almost lost like a whole year and a half of credits. So when they looked at them, it was like, how the hell is this even going to happen? So like that's why I was always like, I think somebody normal, like it would have never happened, because like they put it on me so much that they wanted me to just be like, nah, screw it. Like okay, I'm cool. Like when he outlined everything, I was like, there's no way. But then I just started into it, man. I just stuck it out. Like I did what I had to do. Like I heard Kobe Bryant say that when he was talking about like the Achilles and how it was. Like I just did what I had to do. Academics didn't come naturally for me. I wasn't a person who could like sit down and apply myself for long periods of time, but I had to do it. Between that, essentially, if you remember that first year out of Tuna, that's all I did. Like, I had to, like, I remember, like, living with my man Tone, and him never being there. He was always out, and I was, like, always in the thing, like, doing some kind of homework. I ain't missed no classes, and I had to, like, keep doing it, but, like, I just did what had to be done.
Yeah, man, I didn't know it was like that. 18, I think I took 18 credits once, and I barely survived. You did it 3 semesters in a row.
Back to back.
Yeah,
They had to have a 2.5. I couldn't slack on none of it either.
All right, and a 2.5. I don't think I had a 2.5 when I took 18 credits, but
I was cool. Like, if you're listening to this and you're trying to get through college, like, I was so cool with my professors. Like, they helped me out. Like, if you go talk to your professors and you're engaged in class and you go to office hours and you try, you'll be able to be successful. Because, like, that's all I did. Like, some of those classes, like, I ain't have a chance at. And, like, because I was cool with the professor, I showed engagement, I asked questions, I at least tried, they ended up helping me out. Else I wouldn't be able to start my career if I hadn't passed some classes.
And that's a key thing right there, what I wanted to follow up with. And in episode 721, you heard my sister with Dre Baldwin Clark. She was an academic superstar. One of the things that she said was she would always show up to office hours of her professors and talk to them. So they would see her face and they would know, like, yo, even though I may not have done great on the test, you know that I'm trying because I'm coming to your office. I'm showing you that I'm doing the homework. I'm talking to you about the stuff that I was challenged with. So the key thing that you're mentioning here, Wes, is that you built relationships with the professors, with the compliance guy. They knew your name. They knew your face. They knew that you were serious and they knew that you were trying to make this work. So when it came time because like you said, when it came time for you to get eligible to play, you still were actually short, you said, but they gave you a waiver. But if you didn't have that relationship, they would have been like, I don't know you, right?
Yeah, it would not have happened. If I was going by there, like I would stop by there, like, and once again, there was no resources. Like, I stopped by with like my grade checks, letting them see that kind of stuff and everything, stuff like that. We got cool. He would see me like, we had like this thing, if you remember at Altoona, I don't even know what you would call that. Like, you remember the little the round thing? He would see me out there like doing my homework, and every single time I'd be like, Dr. Wright, yo, I'm on it right now. And like, yeah, because it means a lot. Like because at the end of the day, your professors are humans. Mm-hmm. They're not some robot or anything else like that. So when it comes time at the end of the thing, when they look at the grade, there's going to be some people in that class that's just going to look and be like, they're going to see a name. There's going to be Sammy Wells. And there's going to be Wes Pifer. Okay, I don't know Sammy Wells. I ain't seen him all year. And he got a 69. That 69 is going to stay at 69. But, okay, Wes, he was at office hours. He came by, talked to me. He invited me to the basketball game. Boom, I'm giving him the 71. So now he's at least getting a C in that. You see what I'm saying? Like, that kind of stuff goes a long way, man.
Absolutely, it does. And that's a key thing that I'm mad that we brought that up last. So I hope people stayed and listened to that and heard that. Yeah, but for real, it's serious because, I mean, if you want to be an athlete playing in the NCAA, you must be a student. And college coursework is not high school coursework. Depending on what school you go to, it could be harder. It could be a lot harder than what you think it's going to be. And if you're not a natural at doing schoolwork, or it doesn't come easy to you and is a challenge, and you need those study hall hours like Wes was talking about, you got to learn how to build those relationships. And listen, your coaches ain't going to give you a class on building relationships. That's just something you got to go do. Like, nobody told you to do that, Wes, did they? You just did it because you did it on your own. You went in there, like you said, you went to class and you talked to the teachers, and they knew what your situation was, and they knew that you were trying. So it wasn't like, yo, I'm trying to get eligible, so hook me up. It was like you were good. You were showing up. You were in class. You were there every day, 8 a.m. classes. You showing up. You were doing the work. You were going in office hours, like anything you had a challenge with, things like that. This is all the stuff that I wasn't doing. I'm going to keep it real. This is all the stuff that I was not doing. This is the reason why I took calculus 4 times in college. That's the true story. 4 times for the same class. And I passed it with a D my very last semester. And I only think that's because the professor just got tired of looking at me like, let's get this dude out of my class. It wasn't because I was coming to his office hours. But that's real though. And is so serious for players out there. Because listen, if you got game, and we know a player and we spoke about him over the phone a couple of days ago. Actually, we ain't gonna put him out there to put him on Front Street, but he was probably more talented than all of us. Right. He didn't have the discipline to go to class. He didn't go to class, and he would have been great. He would have been great for the basketball team, but he didn't have discipline, and it cost him his opportunity. And he should have been another dude from our group that went and played overseas, or I mean, this dude could have played a lot of places.
Right,
but
no doubt.
Not having the discipline cost him his opportunity.
It was, I can remember like that year I was in I got really tight with one of my HDFS professors. That was my major. And like, she hooked me up, like 4 of those credits I told you about, like she hooked me up with. It was like, there was like something that was like once a week. And it wasn't like the whole semester, it was like 3 times. And just went over there to read the kids. And I ended up getting 4 credits just from that, just because I told her about my situation. And then she saw me. I never missed a class. She was like the one lady class, like, now, picked up at the night, in the evening, I'd go to that class a little bit later sometimes, but I'd always go to that class, and she always saw me trying, and she knew that what I was doing. She hooked me up with like 4 credits at the end of the year, just like I was going to read the kids for like 30 minutes a couple of times, and I got 4 credits for that just because like I built like a little relationship with her, and I was actually trying, and like in her class, I wasn't doing great, but I was trying like mud, like she knew I was trying.
All right, and I got an episode coming up that talks about this. One of the ways you can quote unquote cheat to win is to have relationships. Because when you know people, let's say right. 800 people trying to get 10 opportunities, if you don't know anybody, you're probably not getting that shot. And it's not because you lack the ability, but if you know somebody, you don't even have to be one of the best ones. But if you know somebody, you're going to at least get a chance. You know, you might not end up the number 1 guy, but you're going to get a chance if you know somebody or you know someone who knows someone. That's all about building that relationship, showing that you give a damn. And that, again, I brought that up just to say I tip my hat to you for that, because I would always see you doing that academic thing. You made that happen, though. You made that happen.
I tell people all the time, man, like I think so much in life goes without saying that, like, it's relationship based. Like, you never know, and this is part of the reason I said this the first time I was on, like, you have to treat everybody you with a certain level of respect, because you just don't know where people will be in 5 and 10 years. The person that might put you on, Corsair, or give you opportunity, you treat them like SHIT right now, you ain't getting that opportunity. And it can go the same way with somebody that, like, you treated the right way when you didn't even have to. Like it just goes like without saying, like, you just don't know where people are going to be at in 5 or 10 years. This person might be a CEO, and like you apply for a job and you treat them the right way. They're like, and your name comes across, it could be your professor right now. Like, oh, well, hire him, pay him 6 figures. He's worth it. Like, I know that's a quality individual, but it goes back for how you treat people.
Absolutely. So wrapping this up, Wes, do you have any asks or directives that you want to give to up and coming players who are listening to this right now? This is a player who's listened to 2.5 hours of this conversation. Anything you want to tell them or ask of them right now for their futures, high school, college players?
I would tell you, the advice I would tell you to structure your days. And I'll tell you to structure your days based on where you want to end up. And with that being said, when me and Dre were in college, we were already treating ourselves like pros. Now, we weren't treating our bodies like pros, but as far as like the actions that we were doing, you were acting like a pro. So like, if you want to be a Division I college player and you're in high school right now, you need to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning getting shots. You need to be handling all your academic work. You need to be planning on starting lifting weights. And after weights, you need to go back and get more shots and start structuring your day based on where you're trying to go right now. So by the time you get there, all the actions are supplied for you. You already know. And I'll help you out with one of them right quick, because a lot of the times when I go out and if I'm cool with a coach, they'll ask me, like, we tell our guys in junior college about their days. Can you tell them about our days? And I'll tell you a little bit about how our guys' days are at Northern Arizona. So our guys starting at 5 o'clock in the morning, we have 2 graduate assistants that are in our practice facility that can work out any guys. From 6 to 7:15, our guys are lifting. After that, we'll have a team breakfast. From 8 to 1, you'll be in class, some kind of class, whatever. Probably between 1 and 3, you'll have a skill development workout with one of your coaches. From there, probably after that, 4 to 6, probably pick up. 6 to 8, study hall. And then after that, you turn around and you do it all again. So you're talking about starting 4:30 in the morning and going to at least 8, 9 o'clock at night. So my thing is, you might not have to go that crazy right now if you're a high school or aspiring student athlete, but I would tell you to start structuring your days based on where you want to go.
So he just gave you the whole layout right there, players. So what about for the aspiring coaches, Wes? Because I don't think a lot of people know, but the coaching industry, there are just as many people trying to get into that as there are players trying to get into the playing side of things. What do you say to the coach who's trying to come up and basically make the come up that you made. I mean, you came from people not knowing you as a coach, and look where you are now. How can somebody else, what advice or ask or directives would you give to somebody trying to get to where you're at?
I would tell them to start working hard right now. You know, I outlined a little bit of my day on the first one, but these are long days when you're talking about coaching. They're really, really long. Like, my days start at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'll be down there with the guys to kind of get my mind and body right with a lift. And a lot of times I'm not leaving till, 6, 7 o'clock at night till the job is done, whatever the case may be. So I would tell you guys right now, start building relationships. And I would do that based on your backdrop. I was fortunate that I played a little bit, so I knew a couple of people already that knew my name just from playing. So I started there with a baseline on relationships, and then I just started trying to build genuine relationships at any time that I had. I was fortunate because I coached in junior college, but every coach that came through that door, I got their name, I got their number. I wasn't letting the people leave without knowing me, who I was, and I'd always tell people when I'm reaching out to them that I want to build a genuine relationship, not like it's just me, you help. It's really us, like sitting down and having a relationship. So I would start reaching out to people like myself, reaching out how you want your network to look. And I would start right there.
All right. And as far as people who are listening to this who want to reach out to you, what are all the ways or the best ways people can reach out to you, and how do they get in touch?
I'm accessible, man. I be trying to drop. If you follow Dre on Twitter, I be trying to drop kind of like that same motivational stuff, the same kind of knowledge stuff that I be thinking about on a daily basis. That's at NAU Coach West at Twitter, and then my email is wes.pifer, Pifer at nau.edu. I try to be accessible. Dre, I think the platform that you have is amazing, but there's the line of people that help me get where I'm out of the door. So if I can help people, I try to help people, and I try to be accessible. So if you have a question about anything else like that, feel free to get in contact with me. Feel free to drop me a line on Twitter, or, drop me an email. I'm always accessible.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this into I think we're going to put this up into 2 parts. We'll make this a 2-part episode. Okay. Maybe I'll put them both out on the same day. I think I'm going to put them both out on the same day, because I don't like when they put out part 1 and then you got to wait till the second day. So I'm going to give people the whole thing. Yeah, I'm going to give people the whole thing. I'm going to just split it up into 2, because this is a lot. It's almost 3 hours long. But we're going to put your contact info, your Twitter, your email, all of that, website, all of that is going to be in the show notes. And anything else, any other links and things you want to have me put in there, I'll make sure I get those in there. But that's that, man. Wes Pifer, again, thank you, brother, for coming on the show again and donating your time. Because I know you got a coaching job going on, you got a family, you got a lot going on. You gave 3 hours to the audience of the Work on Your Game podcast. So everybody who is listening to this, my request of you, actually, it's not a request, this is a directive to you. Reach out to Wes and thank him for giving his time to this podcast and coming on here and sharing what he knows, seriously, and sharing what he knows. He doesn't have to do this. I mean, this is not part of his job. He doesn't have to do this, so I appreciate it. But y'all reach out to Wes, let him know what you got of value out of this that matters to people, that when they share value, it matters that you're getting something and they know about it. Not just that you got it, but that they know about it. Because if you're getting value from the show, let the people who are giving you value, let them know, reach out to them, tell them it matters. It does help everybody. And that's it, everybody. Work on your game. Wes Pifer, again, thank you for being on. Y'all know what it is. See y'all tomorrow. DreAllDay.com.